Okay, so it's good to have you all today here at the Money Summit. Give it up for today's CityPoint Community Church and NuMark Credit Union presents the Money Summit right here in Bronzeville. And as we said, this is more than just an event. This is about us. It's about community. It's about coming together to learn, grow, and take control of our finances. Before I thought about the summit today, I thought about myself and growing up with 90s and 2000 hip-hop culture. And all in the 90s and 2000, everybody was talking about getting money. So Wu-Tang made it clear when they said cash rules. Here, dollar bills, y'all. 50 Cent told y'all he do what? I get money. Money I got. Rick Ross even named his crew BMF. Y'all know what that's standing for? Blowing money fast, okay? That is all they talked about. And so when you grew up, if you're like me, I'm 44, we grew up, we knew that we had to hustle to get to the bag, hustle to get money. Now, I'm looking around at this room. I know a lot of you personally, and a lot of y'all did just that. You went to school, went to the schools, went to the right schools, went to the other schools, went to the school of hard knocks, went to all the schools, and you got to the bag. But I don't know where the track is about how to invest that money, how to manage that money, what to do with that money. And guess what? That's why we're here today. Money can be overwhelming, and really we want to make it simple, approachable, and real. Whether some of y'all are here to tackle debt, give it up if you are here because you said, I want to be young and debtless, or middle-aged and debtless, or a senior and debtless. Give it up if you're here to talk about debt. You might be here to learn and get serious about investing, or, thank you so much, or it's time to buy your first home. Well, whatever brings you here, we're here to talk about this. We're here to talk about generational wealth building, and this day is truly about you. Now, there are plenty of takeaways you're going to leave with today, and we'll have our media team at the end. They'll be going around doing interviews. We'll even have a survey because we want to do more of these events, so you will help us make them better. Some of the voices that we have today in the room, we have Carla and Demetrius Davis of Young and Debtless, and they're here. Oh, someone clapped. They must have gave somebody $20. Okay. It's always good to have a cousin in the room. And they're going to inspire us with their journey of paying $125,000 worth of debt in just 2.5 years. And you heard that right, 2.5 years. Just came in the building. I saw Ross Mack of Maconomics. You all give it up for Ross. And if you're like me and you follow Ross on social media, or maybe you've seen him on Netflix, you love that he breaks down financial literacy, how we can all understand and what we can use. And if that's not enough, we have 4 powerful workshops coming up. We're going to be talking about building and maintaining, or maybe even recovering credit with NuMark Credit Union. We're going to have Crypto Mama here. She's going to be here to talk about crypto. For us to be talking about our finances in the future, we all have to get just really literal and understand what's going on with the future of finances. We're going to be talking about stock investing and home buying. And for all the parents that's here in the room, while we're taking care of business upstairs, we would just not have it right here at CityPoint if we did not think about the future and our kids. So while we're taking care of business upstairs, our kids are downstairs with interactive workshops to design them to teach about money early, because we understand that the next generation deserves a head start. Now, before we dive in, I gave you all a little bit of preview in the morning before, but we want to recognize NuMark Credit Union, which is right here. We have one located just, I think, 5 miles from us here, and they're here, and they sponsored this event, so you all give it up for NuMark Credit Union. Their support means a lot because it truly shows their commitment to community and seeing communities like ours not just survive, but thrive. So I encourage you today to lean in, ask the question, take the notes. Don't be afraid to connect with the people that's sitting around you, because this today is our time to break cycles. It's our time to build wealth. It's our time to create a stronger future, not just for us, but for the generations coming behind us. That's the part where y'all clap. For the generations coming behind us. First up, our first speaker, I spoke about them earlier, but we have Demetrius and Carla Davis, a dynamic couple that we love here at CityPoint, and they're going to be talking about debt. Now, we talked about some of the things that you all are going to be taking away, but I want to tell y'all one thing that I want y'all to leave behind right now. Collectively, we want to leave behind any shame. So anything that, any shame, any mistakes that you've made in the past, anything that brought you here, that you said, thank you, leaving it. This is, I don't know if y'all know, this is my favorite attendee right here. She is leaving it behind. We are leaving and throwing that shame away. It has no use here. It does not move us forward. It only holds us up for receiving the information. So the reason that you will hear them constantly say the numbers 125,000 is because they're bringing a sense of transparency here. So you can really see what you're working with, okay? We're all about keeping it real. So leave behind any shame that you have about your financial situation. We have Demetrius and Carlos Davis of Young and Debtless. They made a plan to dig themselves out of a sinkhole of debt. And it wasn't easy and also caught up in a lot of emotions as a married couple. But that's the benefit of the Money Summit. We have speakers that not only know what they're talking about as a teacher, but experience it through real life. So you all give it up for our first speakers, Demetrius and Carla Davis.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good
morning. How's everybody today? You know, it's a Saturday morning. We're going to be giving y'all energy. We're going to be expecting some energy back. So how's everybody this morning? Fantastic. Got a lot to go through here, right?
We have a lot to go through. First, want to shout out our sponsors, NuMark Credit Union. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for partnering with us to help people on their journey toward generational wealth. Thank you for partnering with us. Many of you are aware we are giving $50 in a free savings account for all of the kids that are in attendance today. And that is through a partnership between CityPoint Church and NuMark Credit Union. And so we thank them so much for being a partner with us today. Won't y'all give it up for them?
Amen.
All right, we talking the journey, right?
No, exactly. Hey, I mean, to Jenny's point, like this is not a church moment, but we are in a church setting and we come from a place of our faith. So you want to kick it off with a little prayer, and then we got a story to tell, y'all.
Lord, we thank you for giving us this time and this space to talk about our journey, but most importantly, to be able to help people on their own journey. We pray, God, that today will be a day of change, a day of building, a day of generating new ideas, new momentum, and a day of the first foot forward in building generational wealth. We pray these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right.
So
it was all a dream.
I mean, so one thing to note, so we were just looking at this, as you know, kind of put together what we want to talk about today. And we went back and started looking at when we first started talking about this. And we had the script because my husband lovingly has what I call the abyss of a Google account, a Gmail, that is probably older than some of the people in this room. And he still has emails that go back so far.
If an inbox was a junk drawer, that's what I got.
That's what it is.
But I found something from 2014 that you needed, though.
2014, y'all. That is when we did the first conversation. So you hear us talk about this idea of young and debtless. It is when we first kind of got this idea of there is a story that we can tell and a place where we can help folks, and we want to make sure that we are using this meaningfully. So we did our first kickoff of this in January of 2014. And what is astounding and beautiful and just amazing is when we look back at what we talked about all that time ago, again, or past, it still made so much sense. And it was just also amazing to see where we were there and where God has taken us to from then. So just a good reflective moment. But yeah, I mean, we can kind of get into how we started on this journey. We'll talk about where we were, how we walked through our own change and a little bit of what has happened since then. And our hope is that it will bless y'all in the room. So how do we want to kind of get this off? We want to talk about like how we all tend to get here in general?
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Absolutely.
So in terms of like how we all get here, I come from a background that is different from Carla's, in that I come from a consumption family. Anybody here come from a consumption family where it is the outward signs of black and middle class wealth that are the things that are important, right? So for me, my family was a family with the house on the corner. My dad bought the house when like only one other black person had bought a house in that neighborhood. So it's kind of like that story. My dad has always been the Cadillac Lincoln person in the driveway and likes to keep them brand new. So he's very much that person. In the 90s, let me put it this way. My brother and I borrowed my father's Versace shirts to wear out. Like that, and his Coogee sweaters. Like that's the kind of family we came from. And so it very much was about like outward expressions of like what you have. And so as an adult, like that very much was my thinking, right? It was like money was in service of buying things and accumulating things. It was all about the trophies. Carla's was different.
Yeah, it was different. I mean, I did grow up with a little bit more of a conversation about finance. My father worked in finance. I always tell the story of when the one time he had to take me clothes shopping. It was actually to go get a pair of rain boots. He made me get the gray rain boots because they were practical. I wanted the yellow rain boots. I came home crying, but he was sitting there trying to teach me this lesson about like we'll be able to stay around longer and you'll be able to have them for longer and the value there. But I also have to acknowledge that similar to when you get into your first apartment and you buy all of the snacks your parents never let you buy, there was that moment of rebellion, right? Like you come from these spaces of focus on money management and money just philosophy that could be well placed, but what do you do with that when you become older and now it is your chance to make your own decisions? And I think that that's a little bit of what you find across, right? Like there aren't always consistent money talks at home. Like how many folks here had money talks with their parents? Couple, maybe, right? But not really, right? Like money talks often went about as well as the birds and the bees talks, right? Like let's just be frank, right? Like they were typically mired in innuendo or just not any clear focus because honestly, our parents were still figuring some of this stuff out. And so I do think that that's a bit of what we also, when we talk about Mama Jenny talking about, we call her Mama Jenny here because, she over the kids. So it's not because anybody thinks she's old or anything. But, that idea of shame, I think that's a big reason why you will continue to hear us talk about this, is it is everybody's problem, right? And a lot of it comes because we did not learn how to do this, not that we are inherently wrong in it. So that's one of the reasons that we get here. I mean, I think we started to talk a bit about that idea of, like, the culture around, and that, like, we operate like it's not a problem to be broke because we can fiend it otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a particular thing for those that have been blessed to make a decent income, as long as there's like new money coming in Friday. Right, one, it feels like the thing we deserve for hard work, and we have this sense that we can make up for it because there's some more money that's going to hit the account. And so as long as I got enough for rent, as long as I got enough for mortgage, as long as I got enough to cover these obligations, we feel good about it. And what adds to it is if those around us function in the same way and nobody's talking about a different path, then we can feel comfortable because we're all swimming in the same ocean. We're all moving according to the same tide. But we realized that that was not a sustainable path for us, and that wasn't taking us on a path toward the goals that we wanted to meet.
Absolutely. And I think just what's often a good picture of that is like we're always like, all right, we're going to get our money together when we get a little bit more money. And then we get that extra bump. We get that new job. We get that bonus, right? Like, let's just have some real talk here. And there always just seems to never quite be enough, right? Like there was somehow you were able to pay bills and do all your things sometimes when you were, first coming out of school and you just made it. And now we're 10 years in. And a lot of things have changed, absolutely, but we still haven't figured out how to create margin. And that is where you start to understand that there is something that we might want to look at in how we approach our money, and not just the amount of money that we have. That really kind of was the place where we had to continue to push. And then I think the one of the other pieces, and we kind of want to make sure we're placing so people can see themselves in this conversation, is we are often, especially at this age, the sandwich generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Like where we are effectively in a space where we've got increased expenses because we've got responsibility for children, for those of us that have kids, for those of us that are looking to start families, and then our parents are aging, and in some cases, they need our support as well. And so we're very much in this squeeze where there's an extra strain on our resources. But I think that is a push, right? It is a bellwether to suggest to us why it's super important for us to be very serious about what we do with our resources.
Absolutely. So we're just calling out some of the situations for you might be different, but we just want to acknowledge there are so many reasons why we all get here. Right? And so this is why it is worth it for us all to talk about it, because regardless of how we got here or we get here, there is a way forward. And that's what we want to make sure that we can be just a small picture into. So you've heard a quick overview of who we are, our story. We've been married. It is 17 years, y'all. As you can see, we're starting to look alike. You see this? We're in that phase. We're in that phase when we start to look alike. We had been married for couple of years when we started really having these conversations. And a lot of it was because we were loving the shiny things. We were kind of living life in a way that felt normal to everyone around us, but wasn't necessarily where we wanted to be. And so through all the things, be it credit card debt, student loans, loans to family members, just all kinds of stuff. And this is outside of a mortgage. We had amassed $125,000 worth of debt.
And that was separate too. Like we didn't know it until a come to Jesus moment. Yeah. Because you had your thing, I had my stuff. We were married, we were sharing everything else. But we were holding this
Stay
separate.
On my pocketbook,
and so
Joe.
we were
Stay
very much,
we
were functioning like roommates at the time. It was like, this is what you're responsible for putting in the pot. This is what I'm responsible for putting in the pot. You handle your bills.
Don't ask me no questions about any of the rest of it.
And when we had to bring it all together, we realized it was $125K.
Absolutely.
We knew better than to function that way. We even had like the Dave Ramsey book, and like which was on our shelf. Had never read it.
Mm-hmm. We didn't cancel Dave.
We have canceled Dave.
Just to say, but
but we had that book. Hadn't read it. Carla gave me a book. I'm gonna testify since we in church.
Please do. Go
Carla
ahead.
gave me this book called "Smart Couples Finish Rich" a month before we got married, and she said, "Here, read this. This is important to me." I took the book, bet. I never read the book. 2 years later, the Holy Spirit.
Oh, don't even.
I told you I was testified now. Convicted me, and we made a pivot. And I'll tell you guys in a moment my other testimony about how I saw the light.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and so that was a bit of what got us on the path of this, is having a second to say, all right, we cannot be in this relationship together, to his point, sharing all the things, but not sharing the finances of all of this. Now, that's another conversation we can have. We will talk through the idea of what are the, benefits of working through this with a partner. What are also some of the challenges of working through this with a partner, right? Because in a lot of cases, if you're not on this road together, it does make it tougher. And so those are things we want to make sure that we are acknowledging, as well as let's talk about how we want to help you through those. So short, kind of keep moving through this. That book, Dave Ramsey's book, really did actually help us in this moment. Absolutely. So you want to talk a bit about how we kind of came through it, where we went from there?
Yep. So I was about to go shopping on North Michigan Avenue. I went to Bank of America because I had a Bank of America credit card, and it was the last day before it was the due date, right? The last day to pay it before you get a penalty. I know none of y'all wait until the last day, but that's my problem. I wait till the last day to the point where I got to go in the branch to pay it in order to get it in on time. So I stopped at the one on Chicago Avenue, North Michigan Avenue, or Rush in Chicago Avenue. Go in there to pay. It's like $300 and something. That's the minimum payment due. And after I made that payment, because I'm trying to be responsible and do this before I shop.
Before I put that amount back on the card.
That's sound money. You handle the business first, and then in my mind, and so I go in, and so I pay, and when I get into the stores, I just got knots in my stomach. And the reason that I have these knots is because I'm thinking about how many months, years, I've been paying them this. I still remember it was $365. $365 minimum payment due every single month, and the balance had not moved. The balance hadn't moved. And all of a sudden, I realized that they had been running a game on me. Here I am with this BMW 745 in my favorite color, midnight blue, almost black. I got that parked outside while I run in to go pay Bank of America, and then I'm out here shopping. I am pretending to have it, but I ain't got it. They got it. And so from there, I came home. I told Carla, something's got to give. We got to change up. I do want to be a smart couple that finishes rich, like the book.
Finally,
like the
absolutely.
book you said. And we got to figure out how to move differently. And from that day, we switched it up. And Carla became an audiobook for me. I don't even know if audiobooks were out back then, because this is circa 2010. Mm-hmm. She read for me Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover in the car on the drive on the way from Chicago to Milwaukee to her mama's house for the holiday. And there was a part in that book when he talked about what would it look like if instead of paying car notes for the next 20 years, what would it look like if instead you owned a car and only paid cash for cars, and instead you were investing that same money that you were paying for a car note every month? What would that look like to be earning compound interest instead of paying the bank's interest? And when he stated what that total amount was, I said, I want that. From now on, I want the banks to be paying me instead of me having to pay the banks.
Amen, amen. Anybody else feel like that at some point, right? This is where we're trying to get to. So we are going to start to get into this. There are 4 strategies at the end of the day that we took to get through all of this, right? The first one is recognizing that your mindset matters. It all starts and ends in the mind, y'all. So we will talk about that. As you have made that mind shift and are making, because that will be a constant thing, you are going to have an actual plan for your money, right? You will not get out of debt. You will not be in a place of financial control if you don't have an actual plan for it, full stop. So we'll talk about that. There are hacks and best practices that can help you to stay out of bad behaviors. So make sure you understand what those are for you and how to best activate them when you need. And then you have to be intentional about the way that you pay off your debt. So those are the 4 things that we're going to jump into right here and hopefully be able to help y'all. Does this work? All right. So we're going to start with mindset matters first.
Awesome. So let's talk about some of the reasons that we don't deal with debt well. One of the things that folks can tend to do is, especially if they're in relationships, is manage money separately. There's no right or wrong to this, but I will say that what we found and what we often find when we talk to people is opposites attract. And in most cases, somebody is the CFO of the relationship, and somebody is like
a cost department.
Yeah. Cost accrual department. Yeah. Right? And so one of the things that we found is that managing it together helps us synergize. It helps us hold each other accountable. And that comes down to a mindset shift to be able to do that. It takes a different level of trust to be able to do it. That synergy also helps support when one may have the larger amount of debt, the other may have lesser debt, but be better about the strategy for getting the full debt paid off, right? And so letting go of that pride allows us to be able to balance it. There's also, speaking of it, there's pride and shame around just financial transparency. That's a mindset shift that needs to happen. One of the things that should be a conversation is when partners come together, should debt become a collective responsibility? Because what I will say is whether you want to embrace it as a collective responsibility or not, it will become a collective burden. Mm-hmm. Right? The chain is only as strong as its weakest link, as they talk about. You can only go so far as you are able to go together. And so that's something to seriously talk about. And then challenge and get to the root of your why is another very, very significant piece. What I had to kind of digest and figure out is, why did I need to spend? Why did I need those fancy and I still like fancy and shiny things, but now I'm in a different position to be able to afford those things.
And one thing I would even say at that, right, like we jokingly often talk about like the idea of retail therapy, right? We talk about the idea of food as comfort. Like, y'all, in some cases, we just actually do need therapy. Let's just go ahead and put that out there, okay? Because these are coping mechanisms in most cases, if we just want to get very, very real. The way we spend our money are often reflections of bigger things that are happening. So in order to get that mindset, sometimes you just do need that external conversation about what is happening that is triggering my relationship with money in this way. And so I do just want to make sure that we put that out there as a very real element of this. But I think that we can also, just as we link it to thinking about it even from a Christian perspective, right? Like we often use Romans 12:2 that talks about this idea of not conforming to the world and the patterns of the world. And we think about that often in like how you sometimes spend your time, whether you go to church or not, right? Like all these things. But that also reflects in how you think about your own value, your own self-worth, and why some things are important to us or not, right? And the fact that that is an ongoing thing that we continue to have to push it against, because as somebody that works in marketing, I can tell you there are billions and billions and billions of dollars being put out there every day to make sure you feel like you don't have enough, that you aren't enough, that your kids need more, that you need more, that you deserve more. There is an intentional plan to have you in those stores. I work for a store. We hoping y'all come in our stores all the time. Let's just be transparent there. But that is where we have more control than we give ourselves. And some of it comes down to knowing your why of why you're in that space. And so that's one of the places where we really, really have had to push ourselves and even acknowledge that it is going to be an ongoing challenge, because that challenge does not go away. That is why accountability is important. That is why partnership, that is why having people around you that are on the same path are important, because it is that group together. It is having those like-minded people on your journey that can help you stay focused on what's truly important.
One of the big things that I know we had to get over was like what we coined affirmation through acquisition. Like needing to validate who we are because of what we buy or what we possess. We had to get to the point where we didn't care anymore. Yeah. Right now, your car is older than our daughter.
It sure is.
And you make good money and do a lot of the right things, but your car is older than our daughter. My car is 7 years old, right? And they both run, they're not without issues, you know what I'm saying? Like yours, we got to put oil in it like every month.
I'll be in there like Jiffy Lube, y'all. I got my own kind of thing to keep that car working.
But it don't matter, because at the end of the day, most people who look rich ain't rich. And most people who are rich don't look rich. So you look rich by not looking rich, actually.
Right? You're going to start looking around at your friends, the flashiest ones, and be like this. But let's just call it like that. That is the piece. And I think that is where, again, community and keeping your why of making this change in front of you is going to be so important. So that's what we'll stay on mindset. We're going to keep pushing on. There's so much more to talk to, and we want to go here. Mm-hmm. So the second piece is you got to have a plan for your money. I love the classroom analogy that you do on this one, on kind of keeping all your money.
When I was student teaching.
Yeah, I know it's a little PTSD, but
it is PTSD.
Go ahead.
So when you're student teaching, so a student teacher means that like you're in college, you're trying to become a teacher, you're in your last year. So now you got to go and like observe, right? So when I had to do my observations, right, I had to interview, for the student teaching, I had to interview at various schools, and then they got a chance to pick me. So there's one school I get there at about 8 o'clock in the morning. The principal ain't even there yet. So there is this just gymatorium materia where it's like the gym room, auditorium, cafeteria all mixed together. And this is where either the parents who have to go to work early or the parents that are just already tired of their kids by 8 a.m. drop their kids off before school starts. So in there is no plan for these kids. These kids are just running around, and like this lady, I'm just gonna call her a lady because I don't know what kind of official position or training she had, but she was a person who was living and breathing and in that room, and what she was doing was just yelling at the kids to stop doing stuff. There was no plan. And so she's like, Javante, sit down. And then she'll yell at another kid, Tiffany, sit down. And that was the whole plan. So I'm about to be a new teacher, and I'm like taking this in. But I tell that story because it reminds me, right, of like how we can sometimes manage our plan with our money, right? In the same way that school kind of just expected kids to just be able to be dropped in that room and somehow do the things that they were supposed to do, but it actually didn't work that way, and so they have to chase kids around and yell at kids and get frustrated. Sometimes we can function the same way with our money. It all dropped in the account yesterday. Was there a plan? But we're frustrated if it's acting bad. This weekend, your money will act a fool if you do not have a plan for it.
That is
Tell us about
such
a plan.
real talk. So we talk about a plan for your money. At the end of the day, it is a budget. Word budget gets a bad rap, y'all. Right? Like nobody wants, exactly. You feel like you're in a straitjacket or something with it on. But that's ultimately what it is. It is having a plan for how your money should actually be spent. And if you don't have that, you have no way to control whether it's coming in or out, where it's going, and if it's doing what you want it to. Like, y'all, it is that simple. It's that simple and it's that hard, right? Because it is an accountability metric that when it comes to money and all the emotional elements that are tied to it that we don't enjoy often, right? Or we will do it in theory. How many people have actually written a budget before? Let's just be real. Okay? And how many have kept that budget? Y'all also in church, so come on. Right?
It's like the Pledge of Allegiance or like the Star Spangled Banner. Like it has nothing to do with like
all the realness of all of this, right? It's just sitting there. It's like, yes, I have a budget. I have a budget because it's in Excel. It exists, right? I have a budget. I think that's how we often take it. But what it is actually holding you to, and what it helps you even realize about what you're spending and why is the whole purpose behind it, right? Like if you don't know how much you are actually spending when you go out to eat during the month, actually spending, right? Because what we'll do is we'll be like, we got money for groceries, we know how much we're spending on our utilities, we know our mortgage, we know our car note. Yes, we have a budget. That's the easy part. It is the stuff that you just do on a day-to-day that you are not accounting for, that you make that run to the stove, that you run over to, I don't know if I'm running Target anymore, y'all, but anyway, you making that run to wherever you go, you know, last minute call from a friend, and you weren't planning to go out this weekend, but you know, it's popping off at whatever place, so we gotta be there. Like, it's that stuff that will get you. But there also means you can have a plan for that, right? Like, that's part of it, is it doesn't have to be either or. It's having a plan. Of the money that I'm spending, how much do I want to leave for recreational things, right? So that when I do get that call or want to run out, but if there is no actual thoughtfulness behind that, you will take money that should go towards utilities, take money that goes towards debt. You're taking that out with you. That's what you're taking out with you. Right? So let's just get real honest on that's what it does. So that is where, when we really start talking about it, you got to get a budget first.
All right. I'm going to go into real fast because we're starting to get tight on time. How we thought through our budget, right? The budget is key for anybody that is looking to pay down debt or to ultimately pay off debt. The budget is critical. If you don't do that, you will not create the margin that is necessary to be able to pay it off. So the key thing with the budget is really make some tough and difficult decisions, right? Some very, very tough and difficult decisions about how we spend our money, right? Because that is your resource, that is your tool for being able to attack the debt. And it takes some sacrifices. It took sacrifices for us, but they were sacrifices for a period of time that we had to do.
Yeah, we literally went down to one car at a point. We changed our housing at a point. Like, y'all, this was not like, okay, we're just not gonna eat out every once in a while. Like, sometimes if you gotta create more margin, you gotta do bigger things. And that is something that you also wanna just make sure, thank you, that we are acknowledging, because again, if it's in a short amount of time, you can make some of these calls if you know what you're pushing towards, but it does sometimes take some of those to kickstart this and create the margin.
One of the things that we did as well with the budget is we separated things out into different accounts. So we have an account that is for, we call it our gas and groceries account. This is getting super practical now. Gas and grocery account. So if I'm at the gas station, if she's at the gas station, that's the debit card you use. You don't use the same account that the mortgage is getting paid from and other bills getting paid for. This is the amount of money, and so it's transferred every 2 weeks. Sort of the budget for the gas and the groceries goes to that card. And that's what we have to use at the grocery store. That's what we use at the gas station. If payday is Friday, you get to Wednesday and it's $20 in there. That's it. It's $20. That's gas. That's food. And we have to own that we went too hard.
Absolutely.
We went too hard this month.
Yeah,
or these 2 weeks, and we gotta pull back.
Sometimes we even early on we turned off the overdraft fee protection on one of these cards too. So you want to talk about getting embarrassed? We be in line at Walgreens, checking counts, making sure as we get closer that we're not gonna scan this card and somebody gonna say something ugly to us at the front, because we needed that forced discipline, right? So sometimes if you don't have the discipline yourself, finding ways to manufacture the discipline is helpful. There are also apps that help with this. NerdWallet, Mint.com, where they can help you actually aggregate your budget and start to flag for you, right? They will send you a text that'll be like, you only got $35 left in your so-and-so account, right? Like, there are ways to help you keep these things top of mind, to help you not just write that budget, but stick to it.
Right.
So we're gonna go to 3?
Because we're at time. We're gonna just push through and talk through the actual process that we used, right? Which is starting with the smallest debt, right? So
you want to talk about, there are 3 though, just in case.
Three different plans. There's a quick video that we have that illustrates this. Let's show it. It's like 2 minutes. Shayla, if we can show that, we'll come back, share a bit about the debt snowball method, and then we'll be out of the way.
Debt snowball and debt avalanche are 2 of the most famous go-to methods for getting out of debt. Both require you to focus on one debt while making the minimum payments on all the rest. However, The debt you focus on is different for each method. Let's find out which method of debt reduction suits you better. Using the debt avalanche method, you make the minimum payment for all your debts, but focus on the one with the highest interest rate. You save your big guns for that one. Any and every extra dollar goes towards paying off that high interest debt. Once the big one crumbles and crashes, you move on to the next biggest, and so on, until you're debt free. Money-wise, this is the smartest solution, since
Okay. Maybe it got cut, so we'll just kind of talk through it.
So
All right?
yeah, just talk through
Finish that
quickly
one?
the debt snowball method. So here's what it looks like, the debt snowball method to manage it. You line up your debts, right, from smallest to largest, in terms of balance, right? And so what this does, the whole point of it is that you gain encouragement and confidence and boost morale because you've paid off some debts quickly. Sometimes these are just $700 debts, $1,000 debts that you can pay off relatively quickly, but you're using the margin that you created in your budget to attack those debts. That's why that budget is important, sticking to it is important, and creating that margin is important. So now every month, your margin goes toward paying off the remaining smallest debt.
And I think to that one, sorry, just real quick on that one, it's also taking all the other debts down to minimum payment, right? Because sometimes you're spraying and praying, as we call it, right? A little 500 here, a little 300 there. Pay the minimums on everything other than the thing that you are attacking, right? Like that's how it works in the snowball. So you have the most amount of dollars to put against that debt.
Excellent point. And then you go down to the next debt, but you're taking what used to be the payment of the one that you have now paid off and the minimum that you were paying on the second one, and now that's the snowball. And so every new cash that comes in, a bonus from work, a tax refund that comes in, that additional cash goes toward paying that, whatever that debt now is at the top of your list. And you continue to work your way down, and that's the way we did it. And 2.5 years, we imagined it would take much longer, but I will say this from a spiritual perspective, I believe God met us in that process and honored the fact that we were trying to be good stewards over the wealth that God had given us already. And imagine this. Imagine yourself in a space that we were when we went into Chase Bank. I think you were at work. I went in that day to make our last payment, which was on our car, was our last debt that we had left. Wrote them that check, gave it to them, and have not had to pay folks money for that again. But now to go to the other side, where now that money that you had from that debt snowball, right? All those payments, right? That snowball that kept getting bigger and bigger, that's your money every month. You don't owe anybody for yesterday anymore. And now you're able to use your money to now grow it through compound interest. And so that is the place that we want to help folks get to. I wish we had time for Q&A, but we're out of time. But if you see us around throughout the day, we'll be here, happy to connect, answer questions. And we've got some amazing workshops that are lined up for the rest of the day that are going to talk to you about kind of what to do with this money once you get on the other side of the debt piece. But thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank y'all so much. All right.
All right, you all, one more time, give it up for our keynotes, Demetrius and Carlos Davis. I will tell you already, I was taking so many notes, the four-step method, that snowball method. I was like, oh, and she was like spraying and praying. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm literally like the auntie handing out envelopes on people's birthday. And I will just let you all into my personal business. One of my notes, it said, because I'm a creative. Do we have any creatives here? Do we have people that are creatives? So you know we're living for the invoice, when the net 30, the net 60. So I'm a creative, and one of my notes I put, I'm treating my money responsibilities like Javante, okay? When that invoice hit, I'm checking my bills. Javante, sit down. So every time a bill comes, I'm telling it to sit down. And Sometimes, just like Demetria said, my money is acting a fool. So that was an amazing workshop, amazing keynote speaker, and now we're getting to our first workshop. So our first workshop is led by Mac Ross. Have you all heard of Mac Ross? Have you like want to meet one of his followers here or there? Well, give it up for Mac Ross for visiting us. Ross Mac. Thank you, Ross. Okay, so that's why y'all ain't heard of Mac Ross, because it's Ross Mac. So I will tell you, Ross, we're so glad to have him. I know him personally, him and his family, him and his wife, and their beautiful kids. And really what attracted to me first was how he approaches money conversation. And one of his first audience members was his daughter, and how she got in on the conversation. And it really opened my eyes to having conversations with our kids. Speaking of kids, clap your hands if you brought one or more. Some of y'all brought 3. Nick and Whit, I'm looking at y'all. Clap if y'all brought one or more kids here today. While we are up here, there are over 40 children downstairs, and they are learning about financial literacy. So shout out to the families that are bringing them here today. We're right in Ross's backyard, hailing from the south side of Chicago. This gentleman is an Ivy League graduate and has dedicated his life to making financial education easy and equitable for everyone. Maconomics is a digital content series, and it blends education and entertainment to really share insights into the world of finance. Ross is a media personality, and you might have seen him. Once you see his face, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, maybe I've seen him on Yahoo, Finance, BET, Revolt TV, and Complex. You know the McDonald's All-American game, McDonald's? He was recognized as a McDonald's game changer, and through that, he's been able to provide financial education to America's top high school athletes that play in the McDonald's All-American game. So from that talent right to the south side of Chicago, right to Bronzeville, you might recognize him from the Netflix documentary, Get Smart with Money, and that is exactly what we're here to do today. Give it up for Ross Mack.
Yo, thank you, Jenny. Thank you for the amazing intro. Y'all make some noise, man. Y'all could have been at home on Netflix. Y'all could have been watching sports, or like my mama watching Lifetime. But I think that, one, I want to give a special shout out to the Davises, because that was such an amazing conversation. So make some noise for them. Because quite too often, we struggle with our own money issues quietly alone, right? And I think there's this huge buzzword in the world, right? Raise your hand if you heard this. Generational wealth. Well, what people don't realize, right, is that in order to truly get over in order to get to generational wealth, we gotta overcome those past generational traumas. So when you think about this, right, raise your hand if you ever in your life been on an airplane. So at this point now, we probably all wearing our headphones, or you talking to your kids or eating. But one thing that happens in every flight that we kind of take for granted is that you got that stewardess, that flight attendant, that's literally telling you, right, in the event that we have some turbulence and those oxygen masks come down, and you're actually traveling with a child, they're gonna tell you to do one thing. Put your oxygen mask on first before you put your child's oxygen mask on. Right? That applies to life. You can't help your kids if you yourself are struggling. So that's what this conversation is about, right? I talk to my kids about finance, but I want to help people understand that there's a psychology when it comes to money, right? There's a reason that we've inherited financial trauma. It's a reason that when you was riding in that car with your mom as a kid, and you say, "Ma, can we go to McDonald's?" Boy, we got McDonald's at the house. Or do you got McDonald's money? Right? It's a reason that if you wore Payless as a kid, you might now want to wear designer. It's a reason that if you at any point in time didn't have McDonald's money, you now might just be overspending when it comes to eating out, right? And now I will say, it's so easy to spend money just with the click of a button. You Grubhub, you put your Face ID in, you just spent $50 you didn't even know you had, right? And quite too often, we spending money that we don't have buying things we can't afford to impress people we don't even like. So today, guys, I want to talk about how you guys are going to understand how to better leverage your money so that you're good, and more importantly, your kids are great and straight for life, right? I'm the author of a book, ABCs for Future Millionaires. My little nephew right there, he got them in the back. ABCs for Future Millionaires. We'll talk about that as well. They're $15. They're normally $20, so, you know, we're trying to get them for the fam. But I want us to know something, right? When it comes to money, right? Understand money is a tool. Same way you have a hammer, screwdriver. Money is a tool that could either damage or fix your life. So what we're going to talk about today is how to actually allow money to fix your life, right? Understand, when it's all said and done, you want your money to work harder for you than you do for it. And so and the reason I really wanted to give a shout out to the Davises, because they talked about, look, I was over $100,000 in debt. They talked about this and talked about that. And I think when it's all said and done, understand this, you're not alone, right? Like, money issues isn't a thing that you have to struggle with by yourself, right? They told you how to get a plan. But understand this, 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So when you go on Instagram and you see everybody on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook living lavish, understand, look, well, that person actually might be living paycheck to paycheck. They fronting for the gram, right? 56% of Americans don't have $1,000 saved. 70% of millennials are living paycheck to paycheck, right? And so I think the average person always says to themselves, well, you know, it's just because I'm not making enough money. How many people think if they make enough money, it'll solve their problems? That's it, just an extra $10,000. See, I don't disagree with her. And here's the reality, right? If anybody seen my Netflix documentary, I'm actually talking to a Chicago Bears player. At the age of 22, the kid signed a $3 million deal, right? We're having tough conversations. I say, if you literally don't make this team, you'll be broke in 2 years. And so the reality is this, right? It's not how much money, it's not a money-making problem, it's a how much you're spending problem. Because it's a reason that 70% of lottery owners, it's a reason that 70% of lottery winners end up going broke. It's a reason that within 5 years of retiring from the NFL, 80% of NFL players have financial hardships. So it's never really I need to make more money. It's how much you're spending. And so for that, right, shout out to the Davises. They talked about one thing, which was budgeting. Everybody take your phone out right now. I want you guys to just text the word CityPoint to 773-232-2577. I'm going to repeat it, but the reason you text that is you're going to get my budgeting app. It's a worksheet. It's on my website. I actually haven't pushed it so that it's public. So the only way you'll get it is if you text it. 773-232-2577. Once again, just text CityPoint. Shout out for having me, CityPoint. 773-232-2577. And the reason that I want you guys to get this is because you need to control your inflows and outflows. Budgeting is literally the first step of becoming financially free, right? I talk to a lot of famous people, a lot of athletes, but when it's all said and done, the common misconception is that, oh, I need to make more money, when the reality is how much you're spending, right? And I think the easiest way, how many people want to get a raise at their job? We all do. The quickest way to get a raise is to spend less money. The quickest way to get a raise is to spend less, because your bottom line is going to be higher. And that's something that we want to talk about. And so I think that we got to understand something, that us as parents, our kids are going to inherit a lot of stuff from us. It's not just, oh, you know, you got your height from your daddy's side. You got your good hair from this side. You got your, you smile like your daddy or this. They also going to inherit our financial traumas. They going to be bad with money if we bad with money. I remember as a kid, you know, that one relative say, hey, they don't answer that phone after 9. Now that might be a bill collector. But think about what that does. I'm now conditioned to think, oh, it's okay. I'm just gonna keep paying the minimums. Sally Mae gonna have to come get it in blood if she want this, but the reality is we're conditioned to thinking this, right? There's so many things that you don't realize you're conditioned to doing. If you ever wore Payless, guess what? You're conditioned to say, I need the new mics. If you ever got teased about your clothes, you're conditioned to say, I'll never get teased again. I'm going to overspend. There's literally studies by Nielsen that black people, right, overspend. It's a reason that Fashion Nova texting you every time. They know when you got your stimulus check, when you get your tax refunds, they're going to do one thing because black people are willing to overspend in order to look like we got money. And so when it comes to this financial journey, understand, you're not alone. It's a reason 70% of people living paycheck to paycheck. Over half of Americans don't have $1,000 saved. It's a reason. It's a science to it. And so my come to Jesus moment was I worked at a hedge fund. We manage over $65 billion. The particular company that I was looking at, I'm trying to, earn some stripes. I'm like, oh, I got a decent little investment for us. It's uncorrelated, meaning that I don't care who the president is, the stock market could go up, the stock market could go down, we're going to make money because this has nothing to do with the overall economy. It's uncorrelated because they literally own, and it was a specialty finance company, they own a portfolio of cash advance places, payday loans, cash advance loans, etc. Then I start peeling the layers back. I say, hold on. Wait, how y'all make money? Oh, so you say people that look like me, black and brown, they come in here, they traditionally underbanked, they need money today, but they don't get paid till next Friday, so you're gonna charge them 300-400% returns. So my come to Jesus moment was, I need to find a way to bring Wall Street to Main Street. So if you guys don't learn anything from me, once again, my name is Ross Mack. The thing that I'm most passionate about is ensuring that people that look like me have access to something that I thought we all need, right? I think that, let's make some noise for that. I think that financial literacy should be taught in school. However, I'm a person that focuses on only what you could control. And that's why, shout out my wife and my kids up there. They above the thing. Asar, wave, buddy. I don't know if they can hear me, but nonetheless, right, I got 3 kids, so if anybody want to help us out, we had 3 under 3. We had a real busy COVID. They 4, 2, and 1 right now. 3 under 3, but I say this all to say, I created a book called ABCs for Future Millionaires because what the schools don't teach, we as parents have to teach. And understand, we're battling a lot of stuff. We go on YouTube, TikTok, the kids is teaching our kids now, and so we have to be very, cognizant about what we want our kids to actually internalize. And so for me, I said the ABCs of how to actually become wealthy. A is for Apple, no. A is for assets. B is for boy, no, B is for bank. And I think that A through Z is something that I wanted to find a better way to speak to our children. So once again, I want us to realize a few things. In order to make sure our kid is straight, putting the oxygen mask on them, we have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves. And so I also did something, right, that talked about the actual 5 steps of becoming financially free, right? And so I put this out for free as well. That same number you texted, you can text playbook to it. Text the word playbook, one word playbook to 773-232-2577. And it's 5 steps. I was just on Yahoo Finance this past week talking about it. And it's important because how many of y'all went into debt just for Christmas shopping? Okay. They said they used to. I love that. Shout out my dog over in there. Used to. Well, guess what? 1/3 of Americans took on credit card debt for Christmas shopping. So I'm going to assume 1/3 of people just didn't want to raise their hand. But the reason we even talked about it is the 5 steps, right? It's how to budget, it's how to get out of debt, and most importantly, how to start investing. So I don't want to step on Rendell's toes because I know he's speaking about the stock market, but let's actually understand something, right? In this society, we as black people are taught to be consumers. We're not taught to be owners. And so I want us to understand something. The average person is going to say, whether it's your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, matter of fact, by raise of hands, how many people have heard someone say, I don't want to invest because I don't want to lose money? Boy, I ain't trying to lose money. Once again, we talked about the things that we internalize. I had an uncle, he kept his money in the shoebox. Oh, man, I don't trust that. I got to see my money. I don't trust them people. But it's rightfully so. It's internalized, right? Because black people had very bad relationships with banks. The Freeman's Bank, right? Where everybody's first got their bread, we put it in there, and guess what? They took it, they made very bad investments with it. So it's understandably so why, right, we have a bad relationship with banks, and which only trickles down and now us having a bad relationship with money. It's understandable. But to the person that says, right, I'm not investing because I don't want to lose money, well, guess what? You're losing money by not investing, purely by leaving your money there due to something called inflation. Inflation is the decrease in your purchasing power. So $100 a year ago literally could only buy you about $97 worth of goods the following year, right? Just to actually, put it in, perspective. So I say that to say, once again, you're losing money by not investing. And once again, Rendell's going to talk about this, but investing in the stock market is very easy. You guys all have an Apple phone. You guys all use Amazon. We all got Netflix. I'll still be trying to steal somebody Netflix login. As a matter of fact, I need Paramount Plus. Anybody got that? But I say this all to say investing is actually easy. You have the ability. I'm going to tell you what investing is. You have the ability. How many entrepreneurs in the building? Shout out to the entrepreneurs, right? Investing is literally having the smartest people in the world work for you. Irrespective of what you think of some of these people, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, the list goes on, Tim Cook, I would love to have them work for me, right? That's what investing is. By owning the stock market, all of these CEOs work for you. So just to put it in perspective, the S&P 500, 500 of America's best companies, S&P 500, 500 of America's best companies, all 500 top CEOs working for you, the average return is 10% on average per year. So once again, remember, I was saying by not investing, just leaving your money in your bank account, inflation is 3%, your money's losing 3% of purchasing power every year, or you can invest in something very simple, S&P 500, you're getting 10% per year. I got to wrap it up. They gave me the 2 minute. They about to probably start playing the music. But here's what I will say, right? As parents, far too often, I see people, right, on social media saying, such and such passed away. They gone too soon. Click that GoFundMe link. I want you guys to know GoFundMe is not life insurance. So as a parent, right, now that we got our oxygen mask on, I just taught you how to budget. I gave you the 5 steps of becoming financially free. Now, let's start talking about how to put our oxygen mask on for our kids. And I'm going to do this in 1 minute. One, right, we need life insurance. A healthy 35-year-old female could get $1 million coverage for about $40, $50. Ladies, it costs more to get your hair done. Fellas, you in the club, that's 2 drinks, right? We need life insurance. Life or death situation, right? We need life insurance. And on top of that, I think as a parent, the greatest testament of a good parent, right, is giving your kids the opportunities that you didn't have. Far too often, right, we giving our kids what we didn't have, right, the design of this, that, and the third, but we're not teaching them what we didn't know. So I remember graduating college with student loans. How about try to give your kids the ability to not have student loans? I tell people this all the time. If you are saddled with debt, you can't even fathom thinking about doing something else, right? There'll be no Amazon, there'll be no Facebook if those kids had student loans. Amazon was started by, guess what? Jeff Bezos being able to go to his parents and let them take out their retirement fund. Mark Zuckerberg was able to drop out of Harvard. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm finna have 40, I'm finna have $200,000 in debt. I can't afford to drop out. Nah, he was straight. So I say this all to say, your kids, the ability for them to even fathom some life-changing or world-altering technology, it all stems from coming from a place of financial security. So I said how us as parents can have our masks on. 2, how can our kids ensure that they don't have student loans? Everybody write this down. 529 account. The same way that we pay bills. Oh, they giving me my time in negative? Oh, that's tough. My bad. I'm going to get out of there. Bro, they said this is negative. That's insanity. I'm sorry. Ain't no way I've been talking for 20 minutes. I just got up here. What was I saying? Okay, I'll just write this down. 529, custodial account into our entrepreneurs' custodial Roth IRAs, right? I think I said everything. And life insurance, we need that. If you guys want to stay in contact with me, right? Oh, no, and lastly, estate planning, right? 2/3 of Americans pass away without an estate plan, right? How many of y'all watch Wakanda? Black Panther. Unfortunately, Chad Boswick, he passed away without an estate plan, right? I want you guys to know one thing. How many of y'all watch Power? That's what estate planning is. Tyreek can't get no bread until he finished college. Estate plan gives you the ability to, 1, leave direction on what you want your money to do. Man, this is negative. I'm so sorry. I love y'all though. But people got y'all want me to keep talking? Y'all want me to keep talking or y'all want me to go? The people want me to keep going. But I say this all to say, so I think it's very important that us as parents ensure that our children have the ability to breathe, right? I'm gonna keep coming back to that analogy of that face mask, that oxygen mask, excuse me. How do we do that? 1, we ensure that we're straight. And 2, now we're thinking about, okay, how do I make sure my kids don't have student loans, right? 529, the same way we are all conditioned to paying bills, that's what investing should be for you. Auto pay, auto invest. Take $100 out of every paycheck, right? Some of you guys are doing that in your 401ks, but keep doing it. Put 50 to 100 to 2, 3, 4, whatever you can afford. Guess what? Goes back to your budgeting sheet, right? Your budgeting plan. You want to budget to invest. That is the first thing. The first thing of budgeting should be, how can I live so that I can invest? First line item you should be thinking about is paying yourself. We condition to paying all these other bills, Sally Mae, ComEd, the rent man, the loud man, whatever it is you want to pay yourself, and that's my time. My name is Ross Mack. You can follow me on all social platforms at I'm Ross Mack, the letter I, the letter M, ROSSMAC. I'll be in the back for a little bit once again. ABCs for Future Millionaires. Books are only $15 today. And that's it. I love y'all.
Y'all give it up one more time for Ross Mack. First of all, stay up with me 1 second, brother, because we're going to give you all a 10-minute break. When I was growing up on the west side of Chicago, maybe if this is what someone who came to talk to me about finances, someone who really knew my life, if this is what I thought finances looked like, maybe I would have got in a little bit earlier. This is really what the Money Summit is all about. We don't have to go downtown. We don't have to have people from other places coming to speak to us, because we have a wealth of resources right with us. Give it up to Ross Mack. Thank you so much. Shout out to my girl Teresa, momming it up there with all of their kids. I love to see it. Again, ABC for Future Millionaires for the special rate of $15 is available right there, and I saw some of you all already itching to purchase it. We're going to give you all 10 minutes just to kind of stretch it out, kind of say hello to your homies that are in the room, get some water, and we'll be back after that 10-minute break with NuMark Credit Union to talk about credit. Thank you all so much, and I'll see there, I don't want to go negative. I'm like, Ross, I ain't never seen it before in my life. All right, so here we go. We got 10 minutes, guys. I'll see you all then. So So the NuMark location for us is on 31st. That's our closest one. I checked on my phone. That's only 3 miles away from right here at our church. So if you made it here, you can make it 3 more miles to the NuMark Credit Union. We're talking about building and rebuilding credit. We'll get some stools for you ladies. You all give it up for Sonia, Sandra, and Marilyn from NuMark as they talk about and go through credit with us.
Hello, everyone. So like she mentioned, we are going to be discussing on how to build or rebuild your credit. You do have handouts in your folder, so definitely take a look at them. We're going to be going over them with you. Also, at the end, write down your questions so that we could go ahead and answer them for you, okay? All right, so let's flip to the first handout. We're gonna talk about the simple steps for improving credit. And we have 6 steps here, but we're only gonna really talk about 3 of them, okay? The first one is paying bills on time. That is very important when you're trying to establish your credit or rebuild your credit, simply because it's the major of what builds your credit, okay? So you're avoiding any fees, you're saving by not paying other people fees, and you're making sure that your credit is staying on track, okay? All right. Ladies, you want to continue?
Hi, I'm Sonia Fucaray from NuMark Credit Union. I am the regional manager, and please come and visit us at 31st Street, okay? So another step to improve your credit is to maintain a low balance on your credit card, and that's like at least at 30% and lower. And keeping your credit card balance around 30% or below is considered good practice because it indicates to the lenders that you are responsibly managing your credit by not using too much of your available credit.
Hi, I'm Sandra Palma. I'm the branch manager at the 31st location in Bridgeport. The other steps that I'm going to go over with is to verify your credit report is accurate. It is very important for you to check once a year to check your credit report to make sure all your information is accurate. All the credit cards that you have open, make sure they're reporting they're paid on time as well. That's very important in order for you to start establishing and opening up brand new credit as well.
All right. In your handouts, you have Climbing the Credit Mountain. Sandra's going to go over what makes up your credit score, and then I will go ahead and discuss on what hurts your credit score, okay?
Again, what makes up your credit score? 35% of your credit is your payment history. And then 30% is the amount that you owe on your credit. And then the 15% is the length of the credit that you have open. And the 10% is the new credit that you're accumulating and that you're opening. And the 10% is the type of credit that you have, and examples are installments or finance companies.
So what actions hurt your credit? So how I mentioned before, late payments definitely hurt your credit. It actually affects your credit 60 to 100 points if you're ever late over 30 days. I know for sure if you're ever late on a car loan, you're definitely going to lose 100 points. So it's very, very crucial that you guys make payments on time. Also, when you're using your credit cards, we're typically talking about the 30% usage. So every percent that you use on the availability, you lose approximately 1%. Okay? So when you're lowering down your capacity, it's going to help you with your credit as well. Okay? Also, shopping excessively. So we recommend no more than 4 pools within that year. Also, not opening too many accounts. So roughly staying around 3 accounts per year. Also, when we're saying that is don't shop for things you don't need. So if you're going to the store and they're saying, do you want to, apply for a credit card? If you know you don't need it, don't apply for it, okay? So just actually applying for things that you know that you need, that car, that home. So also keeping your revolving debt down. That's gonna help that you're not using all of your capacity. So that revolving debt, if you, let's say you do have a lot of debts out there, you could always consolidate them into a personal loan to help you have an installment versus a lot of revolving debt, okay? And then closing out your credit cards could also hurt you. So if you know that you're paying fees for those credit cards, then yeah, I would recommend to close them. But if you're not paying any fees for them, and it's a card that you used here and there, just keep it open. It's fine to have those credit cards available for when you need them, okay?
So another way to climb the credit mountain is to start paying off your credit cards. If you can pay them off, that's great. If you can pay towards them, that's also great. But just keep in mind, try not to close them out because that does affect your credit. Sorry. So when you consider, if you're considering closing those cards, keep in mind maybe closing them because you're paying annual fees or because you probably had a bad experience with them. But keeping your credit card balance at 30% or below is great. That's something you want to consider, and that's what the lenders look for. Always remember to keep making your payments on time. I know sometimes we run into little bumps in the road, but just communicate with your credit card company, your lender, what have you. And any revolving debt, you should move it into an installment loan so you can have a fixed rate and make your payments, and you'll see at the end of the road that there is, you'll see when you're going to pay your loans off or your credit cards off. Unlike the credit cards that just keep adding and adding, and you really don't see like the end of the tunnel. You're still trying to pay them off. So just keep in mind, look into combining those into installment loans.
The next page I want to go over is a credit report contact list. The three major credit reports are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So those are the three credit companies that you would like to review your credit and make sure everything's accurate and make sure everything's being reported on time. If you have any questions, the information is on there, their phone numbers and their emails. So you could also, like I said, check your credit. It's very important for you to check it annually because you get it for free.
So keep in mind, by checking your credit regularly, if you see something in there that it's either not yours or it was like somebody else's or somebody stole your identity or what have you, call them up to get that cleared up. And
you
then
could always
start
dispute
from the
it as
top.
well, and they will remove it if they find out it's not you. So yeah, and they'll also help you because your credit score will increase because they're going to take out the negative stuff that's on the reporting.
Okay, you guys also have this page here. It's websites to help improve your credit. You will see that we have credit.com, bankrate.com, creditsesame.com, and Credit Karma. Those are other ways that you could track your credit scores, okay?
So on the last page, you're going to see some current fraud trends that NuMark has come across, and I'm sure some of you guys already heard about them, or maybe not all of them, but please take a look at this. This is really important because a lot of us fall victim to this, and it's important to stay ahead of it. And if you ever have any questions, you can call us. We're more than happy to answer or help you guys in whatever way we can. Okay? So thank you for having us.
Before we leave this stage, do you guys have any questions for us? Yes. If you know you're not going to be shopping for credit anytime soon, I would definitely say go ahead and lock it. It's really easy to unlock it if, let's say, you did have to apply for something that you weren't thinking of, maybe a personal loan, something came up. you could definitely unlock it at that time. Thank you for asking. Yes?
We can't hear you.
If you pay your debt once, is that will hurt your credit score or improve?
I'm sorry, you said if you pay your debt.
If you pay your debt in a lump sum, does that hurt your credit or does that improve?
No, that will help you improve your credit because you're having your capacity become available. So that's definitely going to help your credit score.
Yes.
Very
And
good
again,
question.
if you pay it off, remember to keep in mind to keep your credit cards open. I know we say try not to use them. However, your lenders look to see how long you've had credit. So you don't want to close them all up, okay?
Good questions. Anybody else have a question?
Right
Yes?
here.
Oh.
On the climbing the credit mountain paper, at the bottom it says FICO score goal. Could you elaborate on a little bit of what FICO is?
Oh yeah, so your FICO score is basically your credit score number. Different, for example, we have TransUnion. TransUnion has different FICO scores. Some of them use like FICO score now. So it's like a different version of how your credit score is calculated. So that's why when you run credit through Equifax or TransUnion, you'll be able to see that your numbers are roughly different, but always roughly in the same bracket. Yes.
One question is, how much does it cost to open an account at your bank?
Oh, that's a good one. So
Getting real, though. It's spicy. I like it.
So actually, at the credit union, you only have to open your savings account with $5. That's what will get you to become a member. But we definitely have other types of savings accounts and checking accounts that if you come in, we will definitely love to discuss that with you.
Hi, good morning. My name is
Hi,
Mickey
good morning.
Grace. I am on the Certified Financial Planner track at DePaul University. And my question is about like Afterpay, Klarna, all of those things, right? Like I know myself, I'm using those things and they're like fake for real credit. But I'm wondering about like, are those kinds of credit purchases helpful? Are they just like trash? Like, should you pay them? Does it affect you? Things like that.
I'm sorry, which type of purchases?
Oh, this is Afterpay, Klarna. Are you all familiar with those?
Yes.
Oh, I know y'all familiar. I see the outfits. I see the looks. The looks are looking. Afterpay, Klarna, these are in-app finances that different websites use for purchasing power.
Yeah, that actually does affect your credit because some of them do report it to your credit report.
Yeah.
But we try to stay away from those because it can get us into deeper trouble by spending more.
Not only that, but the payments coming out every 2 weeks, it adds up.
Question. So the first part, once you open up your savings account, what is the interest that you receive on a monthly basis on your savings account? And then do you have to keep a minimum in there to maintain it, where you won't have to pay for maintenance?
So the prime, since it's you only required to open it with $5, that one you do get back 0.10%. However, we do have additional accounts that have a higher earning. And there's really no fees as long as you don't go negative, especially the savings ones. Like we have different ones where like you can make a deposit of easily of $10. As long as you're not withdrawing more than once every quarter, you won't get a fee. So we do have different accounts, but for the most part, there's really no fees unless you don't go negative.
All right, we're taking 2 more questions. I have one more back here.
Hi. Speaking of certificate of deposits, I have found that that's been a great way to have some, we say some come-ups on some short terms, and it wasn't very common to know about it. Can you talk about some of the certificate of deposits, maybe something like the 6 months to a year, 11 months, certain interest rates, you can get at a high interest rate, some of it at low interest rates. Maybe you could share some of that information.
I will apologize. I haven't looked at that rate sheet in a while, but I know Does anyone know what the rates
So,
are?
so actually, with the CDs, there's different terms, and of course, there's different rates. It's a good idea to shop around or actually stop by and look to see what kind of specials we have, because we always have different specials, and the only way you're gonna benefit from that is to become a member. We offer those special rates to our members. So that's one of the best things I can tell you to do is, come in and see what kind of rates we have. We do have different terms. So going to our website and see like what fits you better or how long you want to lock in your money. But just keep in mind or stop in and see what kind of specials we might have this month or next month.
All right, we have time for one more question. Anyone want to close us out? All right, y'all did such an amazing job. Or do we have one up front? Okay, perfect. Yes.
I'm like, wait, you had a question.
I feel like the Pop the Balloon lady. Y'all ever see that on YouTube?
Thank you. I had a question about paying your credit card off. I believe I went across something on Instagram that talked about paying your bill either before the billing cycle ends or at the same. It was something about being able to pay one time a month depending on the cycle so that you actually get a credit for 2 payments. Do you know anything about that?
So I have heard of that. I think what they want to do there is like making sure that you're paying less interest, so that with the credit cards, as long as you're paying before the billing cycle ends, it will report on your credit bureau the next month as paid in full or a lower balance. Because once they close your credit card cycle, that's when they're going to report to the credit bureau. Does that answer?
Mm-hmm. Okay, remember, the NuMark team will be around after as well, so if it's okay, if we can still continue this conversation throughout the day. If you all want to give it up for the NuMark team, sponsors for today's Money Summit.
Thank you.
And if you all are wondering, I want more questions. What's the difference between a credit union and a traditional bank? Who can I talk to learn what it takes to become a member? Sonia? Right here. So who's the branch manager? Sandra? Sandra is the branch manager at 31st. So you already know somebody. And I love to know somebody. So you can walk in, someone greets you, and you can say, excuse me, I know Sandra, and I'm here to open and become a member. So already, you all are the plug. You all already leaving out here or knowing so. Sandra, remember this face and all of these faces, because we're coming to see you. Thank you so much. Give it up one more time for the NuMark Credit Union team. And shout out for those great tote bags. Did everyone get a tote bag? Because it's not only cool, but it's also full of information. And if you like my mama, she love a tote bag, child. So y'all now, okay, see somebody here do too. So I got y'all money green tote bag. Next up, we have one of CityPoint's own, Kendra Cole, here to talk about crypto. Do we have anyone? Someone's excited. That's why they came. Does anyone here know exactly what crypto is? Thank you. Does anyone here just clueless about what crypto is? It kind of scares them. It doesn't know the future. I'm going to put my hand up with this crowd. Kendra, we ready. Look at her turning around. Kendra Cole is the CEO and co-founder of Crypto Mom app, and that's the premier destination for all things crypto. And it's for women and by women. I love that. She created the Crypto Mom app with her husband, Lord, after realizing that women were seeking community to learn about investing in crypto on their terms at their pace. I love this because it is looking for a safe space to have these conversations. While this is also going on, Kendra's a veteran and communication specialist focusing on public relations, talents, and event planning. She is a board member of Young Black and Lit. She is a volunteer in service all over the city, including right here at CityPoint, and is also a parent rep for the Illinois Department of Health and Emergency Services Board and volunteers for the Sickle Cell Disease Association of Illinois. I give you that full bio because I want you all to know that you're getting full humans, full people with life experiences, not just talking heads. So put your hands together and join me as we welcome Kendra Cole to school us on crypto.
morning, or good afternoon. Thank you, CityPoint, for
Okay, so I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about Crypto 101. So we're going to talk a little bit about the good, the bad, maybe a little bit of the ugly, but hopefully we'll be talking to you and about learning about ways that if this is something that you want to learn about and incorporate it as a part of your larger financial goals and journeys, let's talk about it. Let's get some foundational information. Next slide. So we'll just keep going. So earlier this week, this was a big week. Lots happening. On the heels of the inauguration, our now President Trump decided that he was going to launch the official Trump meme coin. So he's going to have his own crypto coin. And combined that with Melania also having her own coin, that raised a lot of questions and ethics issues. Now, I don't know about you. If I look at this, are you trusting this? I don't know. That's not even his real body. Let's be real. So when you think about crypto, oftentimes there's a lot of scams. You don't know what to trust. How do you know if this is real? How do I know if my money is going to get stolen? Is it an endorsement from somebody like President Trump, somebody that you would trust? So these are all questions and things that you can you can ask yourself, and they're really important and they're valid for you to think about the things that are important to you and actually listen to your gut and say, does this pass the smell test? Because my spidey sensors are going off when I see something like this. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about Crypto 101. I'll talk to you a little bit how I got my start in crypto. We'll give you some foundational information about what exactly is cryptocurrency. We're also going to give you some stats about the industry in general, how it impacts the Black community, and some things that you can ask yourself about ways that if you want to get involved in this. So how I got my start, I started in crypto over 5 years ago, and I was very much a lot like you. A lot of people raised their hands and said they don't have any idea. I had zero clue as to what it was. At the time, my husband was working for a B2B cryptocurrency firm. So while I heard about it a lot at home, I honestly just had no clue what he was talking about oftentimes at the dinner table. So I was pregnant with our third child, and there's so much great information that's been here that's already talked about. We had started a little bit of that foundational planning for our house. So we had our term and our whole life insurance already set up. We had our 401k set up. We had already started doing some investing in our Roth IRAs. But again, as I'm looking at the news, I'm hearing about crypto, I'm thinking, what are some ways that we can incorporate this into our lives that's tangible and that's manageable, but also we don't want to lose our shirts, right? So we don't want to invest our very last dollar in this and then go completely bankrupt. And so I was really seeking community and finding other women and moms who had some of these same questions. And quite honestly, it was really difficult to find. And so that really led us to co-founding a company called the Crypto Mom App, which we rebranded to Sparrow. And so we were a venture-backed education and tech platform where we empowered women on their financial journeys using Bitcoin. Through that journey, we were a venture-backed company. We raised more than $500,000. We spoke with more than 10,000 women across the country where they were learning about crypto, hosting talks online. We were covered in FinTech TV, Afrotech. And so it was a really amazing experience, not only for me as a person, but as an entrepreneur. And I think the most important thing that I learned from this is that when I see my babies at home and they come in and they come home and they say, "Hey, Mom, how did your pitch go? Hey, Mom, did you see that Bitcoin? Did you buy Bitcoin today, Mom?" Or, "Hey, Mom, you know what? Don't forget tomorrow. What are you doing? Turn off the TV." And that's my oldest. She is always talking about the TV. So it was just such an amazing experience to learn. And I grew so much. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about exactly what is cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency is a new money. It's recent, new, and it's just a digital currency, and that is powered by blockchain technology. Now, blockchain technology is decentralized. It's a digital ledger that records all the cryptocurrency transactions across the network. So you can kind of think of it as a blank Excel document, but it's secure, It's open source, and you don't need a middleman or a fiduciary like a bank. So the one thing about cryptocurrency that people really like about it, and it's very secure, but you can send it from peer to peer. Now, Bitcoin, for the purposes of this conversation, we'll mostly focus on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the most well-known. It was created in 2009, and there's a number of use cases. So you can use it for peer-to-peer, for purchasing goods. You can use it for investment. There's even apps that allow you to use it for gambling. There's also something called altcoins. So if you've ever heard of the other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or Doge, those are called altcoins. So they're any other coin that's other than Bitcoin. You can kind of think of the relationship between these two as like Bitcoin's kind of like Michael Jackson. And then the altcoins are, Jermaine, Tito, so they're like the rest of the Jackson 5. And then there's also another form of cryptocurrency that's an NFT. And so those are non-fungible tokens that often are digital assets that typically have some association to real life. So for example, this Bored Ape ETF, an NFT right here, it actually was sold on Sotheby's blockchain marketplace for more than $3 million. And that's something that's been growing in recent times as well. So if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, for example, what exactly would you need? So the first thing you would need is a wallet. So it's a digital tool that allows you to store, send, and receive your cryptocurrencies. And there's two types of these wallets. There's a hot wallet, and that's typically connected through the internet, or a cold storage wallet, which is offline. So you can think of a cold storage wallet almost like a USB, so just completely disconnected from online. Now, if you wanted to then go and buy it, where would you do that? You can do it in a few places. So you can do it on an exchange, which is an online platform that allows you to buy and sell and trade cryptocurrencies. So some examples of that are apps like Coinbase, there's Binance, and then there's FTX. So FTX is no longer involved. That's if you've heard in the news, FTX, the CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, basically built this company up, and it completely crashed. And so now he's in jail for fraud and a number of other things, which again leads us to really kind of have our spidey senses go up and say, how do I trust this? Is this real? So what affects the price of Bitcoin? So there's a few things that affect the price of Bitcoin. Now, again, if people are buying Bitcoin, the price is gonna go up. When people start to sell it, the price is going to go down. So the supply and demand are two things that affect the price. Now, with Bitcoin in particular, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that are in existence, and it's distributed at a fixed rate. But the good thing is that if you wanted to go and buy a Bitcoin, you wouldn't need to buy one full Bitcoin. There's apps and things that you can use, and you can just buy a fraction of them, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. There's also regulation and media coverage. So oftentimes whenever there's new news that's in the media, such as when the SEC approved the first Bitcoin ETF, that really impacts the price of it because people are more interested in it, so they want to buy it. And again, in addition, media coverage, similar to what we saw with the Trump coin. When the Trump coin first launched, it spiked and then it dropped. So you also just want to be mindful of when there are these sort of fly by the seat of the pants or fly by night sort of projects, whether or not those are things that you can trust and whether or not they have longevity. So ways to buy. So here's a few different ways that you can buy. So the first one, like we talked about, are exchanges. Those are online platforms. There's peer-to-peer marketplaces, which allow you to buy directly from other people. Now, the thing about peer-to-peer marketplaces is that it's great because you can own your own cryptocurrency yourself. But the challenge is that you want to be mindful of scams because you're in essence exchanging with people who you may or may not know. There's also Bitcoin ATMs, which are physical kiosks where you can use your debit card to purchase Bitcoin. The challenge with Bitcoin ATMs, though, is that oftentimes they have extremely high rates, so they can be even a little bit predatory. And the last one is Cash Apps or mobile wallets. So if you go on Cash App right now, you can buy Bitcoin for as little as $1. So the good thing about these is that you have easy access. The rates might be a little bit high, but it also allows you to just be able to take that first step, and it's a great place for beginners. So a little bit about the cryptocurrency industry in general. It's massive, and it's growing. It's worth more than $3.3 trillion in market size, and of that, Bitcoin has most of the market value at 55%. When we talk about the US market, about 40% of adults are owning cryptocurrency, which is good, so it's gaining popularity. And as of recently, and I think I actually checked this morning, it was more than this, but Bitcoin's all-time high was more than $100,000. And again, don't be freaked out by this, because if you wanted to buy, you don't need $100,000. You're just gonna buy a little small fractional piece of it. Now, what is it about cryptocurrency that really, it gets you going? Like, what is it that interests you? So we have a number of our celebrities, the people that we follow. Meg did an amazing online series that was Bitcoin for Hotties. You have LeBron here, who's endorsing Crypto.com. So there's a number of things that really kind of attract specifically the Black community to crypto, and one of those things is the negative perception of the stock market. There was a study that showed that nearly 20% of Black people who actually purchase cryptocurrency as their first piece of investment, more than even the stock market, because they just did not trust the stock market. There's also this promise of generational wealth. Again, it's a lot easier to get into Bitcoin or get into crypto by simply opening up your Cash App. And democratizing of financial services. African Americans, we have a very complicated relationship with financial services here in the US. And so it's really difficult to oftentimes trust the banks, to trust the stock market. And cryptocurrency offers an opportunity to really kind of level the playing field there in a safe way if you go about it that way. But here are some challenges. Black crypto investors were more than likely to have to borrow money to make those investments, but then had to sell them for less than what they were worth. So we want to be smart about these investments. Think about your plan for your life. Pastor G talked about the plan, your budget. Think about how, if you're going to go into this, what are your goals? How are you going to go about doing this? And you want to make sure that you're not going in and spending your last dollar again. However, there's some promise here. 75% of college-educated Black Americans are interested in learning more about it. So when you are attending events like this, that's an amazing first step, because if you're so much more empowered when you have the knowledge. And however, there is still a discrepancy here, and there's a gap. 18% of Black Americans own cryptocurrency versus 25% of white Americans. So there's definitely still more work to do there, but the good thing is that, again, you're at a place like here where you're learning and you're taking in the information and the knowledge. And so I'll wrap it up because I know lunch is coming soon. But if you do want to invest in crypto, ask yourself a couple of questions. Do I really understand what I'm investing in? And it's not to say that you have to be a huge expert, but you do want to be able to have a very base knowledge of what you're investing in and what you're buying. Can I afford to lose this money? This isn't, you don't want to give your mortgage money to something like this, right? You want to make sure that you have a base foundation. You got all your bills paid, everything, and then are you taking how much of your plan can you take and say, I'm going to invest this into crypto? Am I using a trusted platform? There's a lot of scams out there. So you want to make sure that you're using a platform that's trusted, that's reputable, that's been around, like some of those platforms we talked about, Coinbase, even Cash App. What are my financial goals? Like when I started this was something that I wanted to be that was incremental and on top of what we were already doing. It's helpful because you know what? You make a little bit of money, you buy low, you sell high, and hey, we've got a little bit of date night money. That is totally fine and a great goal for yourself if that's something you want to do. And am I protecting myself from scams? So what are you doing to make sure that if you are investing, how do I know that this is reputable? How do I know it is real? Do a little bit of research. When you research, make sure you're sourcing, the sources that you're using are reputable. You're not just going down Reddit and going down, you don't want to do that. Next slide. And so just to wrap this up, just a few final thoughts. One thing that is really important, you hear a lot about these stories that, people are getting rich and all that kind of stuff. You don't need to necessarily start big. It's not about putting in $5,000, $10,000. It's about starting now and starting small. Do what works best for you and your family. And the next thing is that education is your greatest asset. The more that you know, the more that you can prepare yourself. And generational wealth begins with you. All of you are attending here because you're interested in improving yourself and setting up a better opportunity for you and your family. And that's so key and so important. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kendra. This also is a note for the talent. Kendra and I have been friends for a really long time, and I was in awe of watching her and how much you know. So give it up one more time for Kendra Cole. Crypto is one of those things that I had no idea about. Just in that 20 minutes, I feel more empowered by it. And I think that was just a great talk, so thank you so much. All right, y'all have been hanging in there. So at CityPoint, we believe in feeding you, and today is no exception. We have a lunch. Well, you all can go to this side of the room. The NuMark team will be here to get you all lined up and everything. We have enough lunch for look at me, right? Okay, we have enough lunch for everyone, so we'll get you all to lunch. Once you all get settled, feel free to bring it back to your seat. We'll probably get started a little sooner. That way we can keep the day moving. But thank you so much for that Bitcoin. I'm going to be out here in lunch. Anybody want to go in on some Bitcoin? Y'all holler at me. I got a few little dollars I can put into the stock market. Thank you so much. We're going to put some music on, and then too, while you're walking around, people from the team, our CityPoint team, we're walking around getting some man on the street or woman on the street type of interviews to see what you all think. Those will be taking place right in the back, right there in front of the CityPoint step and repeat to get you all's ideas and how you all feel about how it's going today. All right, thank you all for your participation. I'll let you all get to eat. The NuMark team right here will get us all in order, and I will see you all back. I'm going to try to eat too. So I'll see you all back here in a few minutes.
So raise your hand if you have a personal relationship with your banker right now where you would attend their retirement party. Okay, so there's the difference. So the credit union is relationship building, okay? We are going to be with you throughout your entire life. We're going to be with you through the ups and downs. We're a banking institution essentially is there to make profit, right? That's what the designation is. That's why rates are the way they are. I know there was a topic about what our rate is. We pay 4.25% right now on a 13-month CD, okay? So we're really looking to build a relationship and take you through your financial journey. So that means wherever you are in your journey. So if you have no credit right now, right, we have people that will help you with that. If you want to save for a house, we have individuals that will help you with that. So we just had Tina, who is our teller supervisor, retire after 13 years, and she probably had more members that attended her retirement party than she did employees. That's the kind of impact that we at NuMark, I can't speak for the other credit unions in Illinois, but we at NuMark value that relationship.
So on the back of my debit card, there is a 1-800 number. So if I have like problems, something going on, I got some questions for my bank, I have to call this 1-800 number, and I get a random person every time. And that random person may not be in Chicago, they may not even be in the States, they may not have background on the stuff that I already explained to another person 2 days ago when I had to call in about this issue. So it sounds like you're saying to me that when I have to reach out to NuMark about something, I can reach out to a person. I don't have to talk to a computer. There's a person that I'm building a relationship with. Is that how it works?
100%, but we have options, right? So if you are the individual that just needs to do a quick chat, we have newly formed Mel that's going to help you with that, right? So she's right there with you on the internet, on your mobile app to tell you, those quick answers, right? But let's say you booked a loan, right? And you're having trouble making your payment, okay? There's going to be a representative, right? And it may be the representative who you worked with to purchase that loan. They may be able to help walk you through that or get you to someone to help you. So NuMark is extremely solution-driven, right? We're not here to sell. we're here to provide you solutions. So you always will have a direct contact with us, absolutely.
Excellent. And so if I become a member, right, if I open a bank account, I put $100 into that bank account, I'm now a member. As a member, I assume that I get some benefits as a result of that. You guys function differently, whereas the blue bank or the red bank, they have shareholders who are not necessarily the depositors. How are you guys different?
So for $5, you are an owner, a portion owner of the credit union, okay? So you take ownership. You can come to our board meetings. You can vote, right? So there are certain things that go up for vote. You have a say in that, right? So what Chase do you walk into to say, hey, I'm voting, right? You have a voice at the credit union.
Excellent. I'll share this last anecdote. So growing up, my mom worked at Motorola. She was a member of the Motorola Employees Credit Union. When my mom would decide to get a new car, she would get on the phone, she would call that person at the credit union, and she would say, hey, I'm at the Lexus dealership. I'm considering this car. Can you tell me, it's a, let's just say it was happening right now. It's a 2020 Lexus RX 350 with 50,000 miles on it. Tell me your rate, while they going back and forth with their managers here at the car dealership about their rate. And what happened pretty much every time is the credit union that my mom banked with always gave her a better rate, better terms than what she was going to get at that car dealership. And so that's just, that for me was my kind of opening step into understanding the value of credit union. I'm opening an account there today as well because I want a partnership. Carl and I, at one point, we were Chase private clients. You had to have deposits of a significant amount in Chase to become a private client. And once I realized like what I got, aside from like the card that I could flex with, once I realized like what I really got, it really were the things that my mom had gotten from the credit union in the first place, which was the ability to pick up the phone, call somebody who knows your name, and talk to them about issues that you may be having, or to be able to reach out to them to find out specifically, like if I make this move, what would the rate be for this particular thing? So great value, guys. QR code is there. I think it is definitely worth it, not just signing up, getting your kids an account to get the money placed in the account, but I think that there's value in becoming a member, to place some money over there to become a member so that you can reap the benefits and build a relationship. So thank you guys so much. Jenny's coming back.
Thank you.
Tell us what's happening this afternoon.
All right. How was y'all lunch? How are the wraps? Delicious? All right, I love. Let's cook the lunches. I didn't get a chance to eat my wrap yet. I did take it in the back because how I'm getting ready to eat that does not need to be for public viewing because I have been here for a long time. So I took that in the back, but everyone told me it was delicious. All right, let's hop right back in it. And kudos to say, I hate to say that we back on time. Give it up for on time. Okay, so I like to verbally walk through our day. All right, what was our first? First was our keynote, and that was Demetrius and Carla Davis, and we talked about getting out of debt, the snowball effect. You talked about steps in budgeting. So first up, we had our keynote there. Next up, who was next after that? Ross Mack. Look at that. You see me? That was my acting. I was like, who was next? Y'all know who was next. Okay, so next was Ross Mack. Ross Mack talked to us about financial literacy, the ABCs for future millionaires. Shout out, give it up if you purchased one of Ross's books here today, got it signed for your future millionaire. All right, after Ross Mack, next after that was, what did we learn about after that? NuMark. We learned about NuMark and learned about the credit union and building your credit. What is a FICO score? How does it work if I pay this off? I got new boots in my cart and we're going to buy them on Klarna. How does that affect my credit? All of those things were your questions, and we learned about that with NuMark. And right before lunch, we had Kendra Cole. Give it up one more time for Kendra as she talked to us about cryptocurrency. I will say, shout out, this is not on the script, to Pastor Shayla in the background for working so hard on this, and an amazing job that she is doing. Next year, Pastor Shayla, we are going to have to give Kendra her own meet and greet because she just spent the whole lunch talking to people. And so I was excited by that because that shows what a passion and a hunger that we have to be in the next generation of financial literacy. And that lets us know that we have the right topics on staff here. All right, so next up we have a personal friend of mine, and so many people here that were speaking were members of CityPoint. Rendell, are y'all members yet? Yes, we have Rendell, a member of, he was dating us for a while, but we made this thing official. So Rendell is an official member of CityPoint, and he is going to be talking about investing and estate planning. Rendell lives here on the south side now, but like myself, is a west sider, and Pastor D is a west sider. Give it up for the west side. Coming from, let me tell you, this man, I'll get into his bio, but he went from K-Town to TEDx. Now, them two different letters, but if that, I don't know if you wrote a book about your life, but K-Town to TEDx might be the title right there. So, Rendell is the co-founder and chief sales officer for Inherit, which is an online startup designed to make estate planning process more efficient, accessible, and affordable for millions of Americans. We had some people in the audience like, I know that gentleman. I saw them. They were in a pitch competition. I saw them. They got that new app that's going to help us take care of our families. That's Inherit. In August of 2018, Rendell delivered a powerful TEDx entitled, when we were talking about the speakers, I said, Pastor D, we got to get this brother on the phone because this TEDx was called From Sharecropper to Shareholder. Woo! Just a little quicker in my spirit. From sharecropper to shareholder. And he tells the journey of his grandparents from Mississippi to Chicago in the 1950s during the Great Migration. Put your hands together. This is going to be heavy on the Q&A, so if you have questions, I'll be in the audience ready for you. Help me welcome Rendell with Inherit.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Mama Fresh, Jenny, and I, we were sitting there talking about my bio. They sent her my entire bio. It's a full page. I was like, please, Lord, do not read that bio up there. So in the last 10 seconds, we literally just did that, and she still went off script, and it was even better than what we discussed before. So a round of applause for Mama Fresh, please. And also one more round of applause for all the early speakers as well. This discussion around finance is layered. Every topic connects to the other one. It's hard to have any kind of real conversation about one of them without also at least addressing the other ones. The budget connects to the debt, connects to the savings, connects to the stocks, connects to the Bitcoin, connects to the home buying, which you're going to hear about in a second. My wife asked me earlier today what time I was going to come over, if I was only going to show up at 12:52 to give my talk and then bounce. And I was like, no. I'm going for the whole thing. And the reason I came for the whole thing, even though 97% of the information I'm pretty aware of, just like an athlete continues to train that muscle and those skills to throw that ball or to jump or to flip, finance and understanding money is the same way. So no matter what level you are or what you believe you know, there's always something to be gained when you're in a room like this around people who are also going through that journey the same way that you are. I'm going to start just talking a little bit about my background. First, let me give a disclaimer. I always do this. Lawyers made me do it for my old presentations. We can get into the deck if it's there. Next page, please. I am not a broker or financial advisor. So anything I say up here is truly for informational and educational purposes. I don't want anybody going out and buying something and then going to tell somebody if it doesn't work out. Well, Rendell said we should invest in this. That's not what this is. This is more so talking about concepts, strategies, mindset, thought process. I'll get into some specifics, but this is not an investment advice presentation. It is a conversation with you to meet you where you are as it relates to your stock investing journey. And what's difficult sometimes about coming to a stage like this, you don't know where everyone is in the room on that journey. So some things may sound very basic, something may go right over your head, and that's perfectly okay. As we started off the conversation, when we talked about shame, back here. Let that go. This is truly a safe space. It don't get no safer than this room right here. So any question you have, please throw it out. Of course, I'll be available afterwards and we can stay in touch. If you truly want to stay private with that question, happy to do it. Next slide, please. So a bit about my background. Like, who is this guy? Why does he authorize to come talk to us about stock? I've never been formally trained in stock investing, right? Did start on the West Side. Thank you for the plug, Mama Fresh. But went to Tulane, studied engineering, got my MBA at Columbia Business School, and then worked at Procter & Gamble for a few years as an engineer after that. Got the MBA after Procter & Gamble, and then moved back to Chicago to start working at a private equity firm. Raise your hand if you know what private equity is. A few hands. Who watches Shark Tank? I'll get into that in a second. That was essentially my day job. We weren't investing in companies. We were investing in sharks. Similar concept, but I've still been in the investment world for the past 10 years before I left in 2020. And then I started a nonprofit called One Stock, One Future, just before I gave my TEDx. And the mission there was to turn 1 million youth, those young folks who are either upstairs or downstairs right now, the same way NuMark is giving away savings accounts today, I gave thousands of kids their first shares of stock. And so I would sit in a room, have a conversation just like this. Every kid would get $20 from me. And we'll get into how $20 works in terms of building a stock portfolio. Next slide, please. So my inspiration is not my daughter. My daughter, Savannah, she's 3 years old, but this is my niece, Cadence, who is now 17. So I don't know how many of you have kids you've watched from birth, but this is one of the first children I know of in my adult life that I've seen from when they were a baby. And I'm like, how are you 17 now? Like, it's insane to me. But when she was 8 years old is around the time I bought her first stocks in Nike, Apple, and Disney. And you'll hear me talk about that in the TEDx as well. And from that, we continue to build out her portfolio, which today still sits at like over $3,000. And she has $15,000 in her 529 plan that Ross Mack talked about earlier. So I text my sister, who lives literally behind the church right here on Indiana. I said, or this way, I think. I said, Q, hey, here's Cadence's 529 plan. I know she's graduating in a year and a half, but hey, here's $18,000 that you can put towards her education. That's $18,000 more than my family was able to provide for me when I left for school. So next slide, please. So quickly, let's just talk about what a company is, right? Any company that's out here is providing a good or service to you, and you exchange the money that you made, whether that money ends up being digital currency, paper currency, or credit. You exchange some form of currency to get that good or service. Next slide, please. Now, how do we get there? And we're going to go quickly through this. How many entrepreneurs are in the room? I saw some hands earlier. Beautiful, awesome. I too am one. Co-founder of Inherit, the digital estate planning platform that we're currently building, because this conversation around building assets and resources, if we all build up those assets and resources, but unfortunately something happens to us, we don't know the time or the date the good Lord's gonna call us home. We don't have control over that, but we do have control over what happens with our stuff when that happens. And if we don't have that plan in place, all this work to build generational wealth is for naught. So this is not going to be a conversation about that side. We'll save that one for another time, but keep that in mind, and I've left flyers around so that we can continue that dialogue around estate planning. But an entrepreneur has an idea, and they need some money to go out and build that idea. Next slide. As I'm talking, sort of intuitively, just go through the slides, please. There we go. You'll see the light up. So an entrepreneur needs money. They go on a show like Shark Tank, or they go talk to somebody like Jason Mercer, who's in the audience, who's a VC investor, or you talk to friends and family, and you say, look, we need a little money to get this business idea going. We're raising $250,000 for Inherit. Right now, we have $80,000 raised just from people within my network, right? So you go out and ask, you get the money, you start the business. That's the next slide. And then you start to tell more people about the business. That's over here, marketing, sales. You do all the stuff that a business does, and then the business becomes bigger. Now, once it becomes bigger, at a certain point, you start raising millions of dollars from larger venture capital firms. And then eventually, one of the ways that a company realizes all that hard work and makes even more money for its prior investors is they do what's called going public. They have an IPO, an initial public offering. And at that point, anyone in the room can now become an owner in that company. That's stock investing. That's what Ross Mack talked about early on. Unfortunately, too many Americans, particularly in our community, do not have any exposure to these public stocks for many of the reasons that earlier speakers have talked about. Fears and concerns around institutions, past trauma from our parents and grandparents who were never invested in the stock market. And so as we think about the sandwich generation, Gen X, of which I'm a part of, and on, we are starting to see higher rates of investment in the stock market, but there's still lots of questions and concerns. So let's head to the next slide, please. Actually, several slides. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. There we go. So what is a stock? Ownership of a company, like a slice of Granny's pie right here. Now, that's not an actual picture of Granny's pie, although Granny's pie is delicious. And my wife hates it when I bring an entire pie home from Granny because she always makes me my own because I'm the favorite grandchild. So she'll make 6 of them for the family, but one is specifically for me, and I eat them in quarters, as you can see. And so I don't cut little slices out of Granny's pie. It's boom, boom, cut it in 25%. That's my bite. Now, I have a 3-year-old. 3-year-old wants some sweet potato pasta. Now I got to give her a couple little pieces. That's investing, right? That slice of pie is a small piece of the entire company. Little baby comes along. Pie tastes just as good to her as it does to me, but she's getting an even smaller share. The beauty of that is you don't need to eat a quarter of the pie in order to reap the benefit of the pie, okay? Next slide. Did not expect a round of applause for that. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to use that's the first time I've told it that way, Jenny. I'm going to do that next time. So this slide here is if you Google the word Nike stock, and it's mad old. So anybody who is investing in the stock market and is looking, you'll probably know that's not the right price. This from 2020, I just decided not to change the slide because the information is the same. I'm going to talk about 3 things you should be aware of on a slide like this. Then I'm going to talk quickly about what's called a mutual fund, and then I'm immediately going to open it up to questions. And my countdown is good. Where's Ross? Ross left. See, I'm going to teach him about how to speak when you have time. See, I got 21 minutes left right now. And I'm trying to take maybe another 5 minutes and truly leave 15 for Q&A. So this is a chart of Nike stock. Who can tell me what the price of Nike stock was at the time of this chart? Shay, say it out loud as a group. $79.01. Who can tell me how Nike stock did that day? What was the change in Nike stock that day? Either one. Up $6.62 on a dollar basis. Percentage-wise, it went up 9.14%. Who can tell me, it's really small to read, how much is Nike worth? Ooh. Say it again, Jason Mercer. About $96 billion. That is what's called, if you look at the bottom, you'll see open, high, low. That is what the price of Nike was when that day started in the morning. The low was the high is the highest it reached that day. The low is the lowest that price reached that day. Right under that is something called market cap, which is short for market capitalization. It is the overall value of the company. And once you buy a share of Nike, you now own a slice of pie of a $95.16 billion pie, okay? That's what it means to invest in stock. Let's go to the next slide. So this slide is showing what has happened with Nike over the past 6 months. We've talked about investing being a long-term game. So whatever happens with a stock on an individual day, unless you become a day trader, which I am not going to really address today, but if you're sitting at your computer 8 hours a day, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, like every single second, then yes, what is happening minute by minute does affect you. But if you're using what's called a buy and hold strategy, who remembers, I'm aging myself, Pastor D, who remembers Ron Popeil from infomercials? Yeah, come on now, Gen Xers and young boomers in the room. So this guy would be on TV 11:30, midnight, and he's selling them rotisserie chicken machines. And what was his famous phrase? Set it and forget it. And that's how I think about stock investing. Again, especially in our community where there has been fear and concern. Because if you're day trading, you're now going to be worried about this thing every single day. But if you put the stocks in, excuse me, mic went off, mic check, there we go. If you put the stocks in there and you let them sit, and I'm going to get back to the presentation in a second. I still got 18 minutes left. I'm going to get to this Q&A. If you just put the money in the market, and we'll talk about what that means. Ross said earlier, what has been the annual return of the stock market on average? Say it loud. 10%. That means without you doing anything, if you put $1,000 in the stock market, it's going to be $1,100 at the end of the year. Not going to be, not guaranteed, but on average, over long periods of time, you're going to make 10%. And then the next year, you get another 10%. Now, keep in mind, though, that does involve ups and downs, like a roller coaster. But if you leave the money there for a long period of time, historically, it's been more likely than not that you're going to make money versus losing money, all right? So this is 6 months. You can see that Nike actually went down. Nike was at $92 at the beginning of this 5 or 6 month period, and it's down at $79 at this point. So if you had invested specifically on that day, it looks like September 26, 2019, you would have lost money in Nike up to this point. Let's go to the next slide. And this is 5 years for Nike, so hold it longer, it's up 9.24%. Let's go to the next slide. Sorry, this is Apple. So now this is Apple going down. I'm gonna go through these quickly because it's the same information. Next slide, 6 months Apple, and then 5 years Apple. All right, next slide. Now, this kind of page is what really intimidates people. You go to a news page or you see that ticker on your screen on NBC and you're like, what in the heck is all this information they're throwing at me? What are these letters? What are these charts? Actually, skip that part of the prior slide. Go back one for me. Every company has what's called a stock ticker. It's a set of letters that identifies that company. What is the stock ticker for Apple? AAPL. It's just a way to identify it. Less relevant nowadays. That was actually where they literally had ticker tape with those letters on it to identify the company. But now, because essentially all trading is done digitally, whether you know the ticker for Apple or not is irrelevant. You go on your stock investing platform, you type in Apple, and you buy how much of Apple you'd like to own. So back to the next slide. So now, again, you see the stock chart here, but this is not about a specific stock. This is about a group of stocks called the Dow Jones. Now, the Dow Jones is just a collection of 30 companies that you can't technically invest in directly, but it gives you an indication of how some of the largest companies in America are doing. The Boeings of the world, the Procter & Gamble's of the world, Amex may be on there. I forget all 30 of them, but it's really large. A lot of manufacturing and some tech companies are in there. And as you see that, at the end of the day, when you're watching the news and they say the Dow Jones did this, the S&P 500 did that, and the NASDAQ did this, again, it's just giving you an indication of how the broader market did, market being companies. The S&P 500, pop quiz, how many companies are in the S&P 500? Get out of here, for real, for real? 500 companies in the S&P 500. It's actually viewed as a better indication of how the broader stock market is doing because it's more companies in there relative to the 30. Now, you heard me say you can't invest in them directly, but companies have created baskets of portfolios that you can buy at one time for one price, and you'll then have exposure to essentially the same companies that are in the S&P 500. And that is the ETF. So I heard somebody shout out ETFs called an exchange-traded fund. Not going to get super into detail on what that is unless it comes up in Q&A, but think of it as instead of buying just Nike, you're buying the full basket. Who likes chips? Yeah, favorite chip right here. Hey, how you like chips? Throw me one. Give me a chip. Doritos. Give me another chip. Hot fries? What you, a Gen Z? Another one. Lay's. Yeah, I like Funyuns. Yeah. Flamin' Hots on the west side. Flamin' Hot Cheetos. So you can go buy a big bag of just that chip. Now you're stuck with just that chip in the house. You might not want that chip the next day, next time you're having some chips. So you get that big plastic bottle with the plastic cover back in the day, and you rip that thing open, and you get to look at all the different chips in there that you might want to have. Think of a mutual fund or an exchange-traded fund that way. It is a collection of stocks that gives you exposure to all of those companies so that you're not trying to decide which one of these companies do I want to buy. You know, I don't want to just buy one company. I want to buy all the companies. And that way, you're now what's called diversified. Diversified, meaning that your exposure to any given company is not going to negatively affect your entire portfolio the way it would as if you had only invested in that one stock. Because guess what? Some days, out of those 500 companies, 400 of them are going to go up, 100 may go down, 250 may go up, 250 may go down. But that's okay, because over the long run, because what do we do like Ron Popeil said? We set it and forget it. Next slide, please. Been rambling. I lost my slide person. All right, so this is the Dow over. I forget what date this is, but it just gives you a different sense of the news that you're going to see over time. The prior slide showed the Dow Jones having gone up. This slide shows how it's gone down over that week right there, from March 20th, 2020 to March 20, whatever it was, 2020. Next slide, please. All right, that brings us to Q&A. Let me say one more thing before I get to the Q&A. Right here in the front is going to be the first one, Jenny. I didn't talk about how you actually go about doing this. You hear people talk about stocks like, what do I actually do? Like, how do I go buy a stock right now if I wanted to buy one? So back in the day, just like we talked about the credit unions and the blue bank and the red bank, I guess because of sponsorship purposes, we can't say their name. I am a customer of one of those banks, but I won't do it, NuMark. I'm looking at opening an account with you guys as well and get one for my baby and everything. But I've banked with the blue bank. They've done all right by me so far. But historically, if you wanted to buy stock, we did not have, not only were we afraid, but we didn't have access. There were no Fidelities or Charles Schwab offices on Costner and Washington. We couldn't even get grocery stores. Like, you know, ain't gonna have no investment companies out there, and the check cashing places, as much as we hate them or love them, depending on what side of the fence you're on, they weren't selling stocks to anybody. So unless you were trekking downtown, you weren't going to have access to be able to buy a stock. Another point, lack of access. You typically had to have an account minimum of like $2,500 just to get started investing. So boom, if my mama, I don't know, my rest in peace, and my mama did as well as she could. I don't know that she ever had $2,500 at one time to let sit somewhere with 3 kids in the house and an alcoholic father in the household as well, a husband in the household. So we did not have access. We did not have the resources. We were literally blocked out, systemically, institutionally, operationally, traffically, weatherly. It didn't matter. We could not get to stock. So fastforward.com, shout out again, genxers.com, you get things like E-Trade. Got a computer now. We got internet. I don't have to go downtown. I could just go to this website and buy some stocks. Say it again. Webull, yes, sir. Fast forward another 15, 20 years. Now we're getting into 2020-ish, maybe a little bit before. Obviously, mobile has taken over. Now it's like, wait a minute, I don't even need a computer to invest. I can whip out my phone. I can still go to those old institutions, Fidelity, the Charles Schwabs, the TD Ameritrades, but I can also use the E-Trade, do it all electronically. Now you have Stockpile, you have Goal Setter, you got Public. Now you have even more companies creating interfaces for you to be able to put some money in the stock market and not have to worry about buying a full share of stock. That intimidates people. I'm not finna buy one stock for $1,000, but I might want to put $100 into that same stock because you still benefit at the same rate no matter what level of money you put in. Question right here.
Hello. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. So I recognize that you're talking a lot about setting it and forgetting it, but at some point there will be a moment where people are trying to decide, when do I exit the position that I've had? And so I'm curious what types of indicators you might use to make a decision about when and how to exit.
Excellent. Question is about when do you exit a position? And if we go back to budgeting, when you figure out the budget for your household and your family, one of the key things that we're typically trying to invest and put money away for is for what? Say it again. Maybe college. I was thinking retirement. Thank you very much. So there are some specific set points in your life where you're going to need resources. So the set it and forget it, at least for me and my wife, is about retirement. I don't ever plan to touch that money or change those positions, but that's just me. I don't want to get into, again, financial advice. So if you're talking to your advisor, I think it's key if you're able to find one, talk about specific goals. Maybe it is home. Maybe it is college. So there are going to be specific milestones when you're going to need to pull that money out. But the thing I will caution you on, again, unless you're planning to go become a trader, is trying to make a decision of, has it gone as high as it's going to go? Ooh, it might drop tomorrow. I don't know. None of us know that. And don't let these internet gurus tell you anything else. Do not let the black ones, the white ones, don't let these internet gurus selling their courses for $100 tell you, yeah, throw your money in there. I'll show you how to do it. I'm not saying what they say doesn't work at all, but what I'm suggesting, and to anyone who's been in the market for a while can attest, 80 to 90% of individuals in trying to invest in stocks by themselves, meaning purchase, buy, and sell individual stocks at specific points in time, don't do better than the market does if you set it and forget it. Period, full stop. That's just math. So I'm placing my bet on the fact that the market as a whole, that all the businesses, if I just buy all of them, that I'm going to do better than if I worry about when I should buy and sell a specific stock.
All right, Rendell, I have the next question back here, and then next I'll take Jason.
Okay. I still got positive time, y'all. 7 minutes, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
My question is more when you're deciding on those buy and sell strategies, right? And those points when you start to sell and start to realize some gains, how do you mitigate taxes?
Ooh, above my pay grade, sir. The question was around mitigating taxes on gains. Yeah, I'm gonna have to defer that one to the accountants in the room. Add that to your list, Pastor D. Taxes should be part of the next Money Summit. It's a great question, y'all. Because now there are ways to invest. I'll throw out a couple things. First of all, one, the vehicle that you're using to invest will help that up front. So how you start investing will help to determine how the taxes get addressed. There's a vehicle called a Roth IRA, for example, an individual retirement account, that the money you put in there, the earnings grow tax-free. So that's one way to deal with it, right? But it depends on the investment vehicle. There are insurance vehicles as well that offer some tax beneficial or tax advantage savings, but I won't go into all those details. I will save that for the tax folks. Next question.
All right, Rendell, we're going to try to get to 5 questions within this last. I see everyone with their hands up. I'm starting with here. I'm starting with the back of the room, and then I'll work my way and come to you ladies in the front.
Yes, ma'am.
Brother Rendell, real
Yes,
quick.
sir.
So people that have jobs that offer 401ks, your set it and forget it method, can you just talk about like putting into the 401k in that long term, and that gets to some of the retirement and kind of tax benefits? So a little bit on that.
I had to buy this man a cocktail. He knew I had 401k on my list and forgot to talk about it. So
I got you, my brother.
One of the ways, who has a corporate job that has a 401k? Raise your hand. Okay, keep those hands up, please. I want to see something. I'm trying to think of where I want to go with this question. Who knows if their company offers a match in their 401k? Hands still up. I didn't see any go down. Okay. No, I'm sorry. Put your hand down if you know that your company offers a match. Okay, good. That's the first. You have a question or you just ain't raising your hand? Awesome. So a 401k is an investment vehicle offered by jobs. And it gives you a way to put money away pre-tax. So back to the tax question earlier. Now you pay taxes later on, but you put it in pre-tax and it can grow and grow and grow. I didn't talk about something called compound interest. The set it and forget it method means that your money is making money on top of money, so the longer you have it sitting in there. So if you're 17 today, you're 27 today, you're 37 today, the younger you are, the better advantage you have in terms of your benefit over the long-term investing in the stock market. But back to the 401k. So you're putting this money away pre-tax. So first and foremost, if you have a 401k at work, and they offer a match, please, I implore upon you, that's the right use of that word, I'm a math guy, guys, not verbal, invest at least up to how much they're willing to match. If I told you right now that if you pulled out $50 or just showed me you had $50, I'd give you $50, who would take that deal? See, hands still down. That's weird to me. Okay. I'm not talking to you anymore. Sorry. No, but that's what the company is saying. If you make $100,000 and you're willing to put away 5% of your money into a 401k and they match up to 5%, that's 5,000 of your 100 that you're not going to pay taxes on right now, and they're going to put another 5,000 right on top of that. That's $10,000. And they're going to do that every year. Every time you're putting money in, they're putting money in. And it's going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. That's one of the easiest ways that people can start to get exposure to the stock market without having to go open up their own separate account. Next question. I know we're trying to get to 5, Jenny.
All right,
Thank
I
you,
have
Jason.
next question back here.
Hey, my question was regarding stock splits. Can you go into brief detail about what that is and then what that looks like for somebody who already invested in a share of a stock for it to have a split?
Got it. I'll do this really quickly. So he asked about stock splits. So that Nike stock that was at $80 that we saw earlier, let's say there are 1,000 shares total of Nike available. I didn't point out on that chart how many shares are available, but each company has a certain number of shares that are out there, just like there are a certain number of Bitcoin that's out there. So there's 1,000 shares available. They're worth $80 each. The company decides they're going to do what's called a stock split. I won't get into why that happens with the company. Just trust me, it happens. And what they do, but the value of the company doesn't change immediately. They just change the number of shares that become available, and they drop and they change the price of the shares. So that $80 stock will now be worth $40, but there will now be 2,000 of them that are floating around out there. And if you had 5, you will now have 10 automatically. Nothing for you that you need to do. It's already been decided by the shareholders as a majority. The hope is that then that stock value continues to grow again. And if it gets back to 80, now you still have $80 times now double the amount of shares. Next question.
Next question here.
Hi, I just would like to know if you can speak to dollar cost averaging. I hear a little about it, but when I kind of like ask around, a lot of people don't really
Explain
understand
it right.
or explain it. Yes.
I'm going to try to break it down simply as I can, all right, sister? So dollar cost averaging. We talked a little bit earlier, the earlier question about not trying to, quote unquote, time the market and try to make a decision of when you should buy or sell a stock, right? Dollar cost averaging says you come up with a dollar amount that works for you, and you put that dollar amount every week, every month into the stock market, regardless of what's happening with the price. Goes up, don't start thinking you should buy less because it's now worth more. Goes down, don't necessarily say, oh, let me throw a bunch more money in there. You can. There are strategies for doing that. But the dollar cost averaging essentially says I'm putting the same amount in no matter what is happening with the market, good times and bad times. Next question.
I know we're doing questions, but we have an accountant in the house, and she just wants to put her 2 cents in around this.
Appreciate that.
Okay, as far as when you do a trade or a withdrawal or selling your stock, as far as taxes, you will be taxed on that. You can actually, when you're doing a withdrawal or trade, have the company that you're actually with to take the taxes out up front, and you can tell them how much you want to take out, so that can give you a little cushion, but you will be penalized through the IRS. And it's usually at 10% or more, depending on the amount.
The penalty she's referring to is if you're under 59 and a half and you're withdrawing from a retirement-based account. Your brokerage account, you don't get, if you just open what's called a brokerage account, there's no penalty. You can do that whenever you want. Am I correct in that, account?
Correct, but
Thank you.
Withdrawing or selling any of your stock as far as on E-Trade, then you will be penalized, because there's long-term stock and then there's short-term stock. But either way it goes, whenever you're withdrawing, you're going to be penalized, and it will be taxed, and it will be considered income on your taxes.
All right.
I love this. Tax
I'm
is not a
negative now.
glamorous.
I'm negative 40 right now.
All right, so I have 3 more questions, then we're going to close up.
Really quickly.
Yes, this really beautiful woman, gorgeous, such a prayer warrior, right here in the green.
While Jenny's picking out the questions, follow me on IG, Rendell_Solomon, or on LinkedIn. Feel free to DM me, hit me up, and I'm happy to chat and share more to the best of my abilities, even beyond this.
Okay, so this is so this is kind of a personal question. I think it might be some people might share the same thing. I had an IUL, and I made it a really high policy so we can invest in the S&P 500. This is about 15 years ago. But the brokerage that I did it through, their company, I can't find the person. But I know my stocks haven't just disappeared, so how do I locate?
How do you know your what? I'm sorry.
I know that whatever I invested, it didn't disappear with that company,
Shouldn't
right?
have.
Okay, so how do I locate that? How do I begin to find out what that account looks like and where I'm at now 15 years later?
911. That's the number. That's the number. Sound like that's the number. And report a crime. No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk afterwards. Maybe I can get some more detail to figure out the company, the contact number, and the things you should be asking to figure out where those resources are. Yeah, apologies, I don't have an answer from the
Sticker, we
That's
going after
fascinating.
them. I don't know who they.
Yeah.
we coming.
I might start a new business line, help people find their money, Jenny.
Peace and love. All of this is a little bit intimidating to me,
I hear you.
but it's okay because when we bring it up and into the light, it
Can we give her a round of applause for asking the question, please? This safe space, be vulnerable, sister.
Thank you.
Be vulnerable.
So my question is, like, what even determines how a stock rises or falls? You know, and for somebody like me, right? What advice would you give me to not shy away from learning more about this process and actually walking into it?
Come on now. Come on now. So, man, Jenny, I can't do this in 30 seconds. She deserves more than that. But listen, the fact that you came in here today, step one. The fact that you stood up and asked that question, step 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you are already on the process, first and foremost, right? 2, I'm gonna work back and finish up with how a stock market, what determines the price of a stock. I think that the best way to do it, and this is gonna sound, I don't know what the right word is. Sometimes it's dipping that toe in. You know, when you get in the pool and you trying to see if it's cold or not. Yeah, you know, you dip that toe in, it's like, nah, that water too cold right there. There is some value in dipping a toe in, though. So the thing about money is there an amount that you're not afraid of losing? $10. I'm trying to be all in your business, but this is personal. Are you afraid of losing $10 right now? So we could invest $10 and you'd be okay whatever happens with it? That's how you start. You pick a number that you're not scared of losing, that you don't need to keep the Netflix on, borrow Pastor D's account. And I'm sure they'll let you use the Netflix for a few months. Save that $20 and start investing it. How does a stock market company? Lots of factors. How the company is doing, what they sell, how much money they make, what their competition is doing, what's happening in Washington, D.C., what's happening overseas, the weather. Like, I'm not being funny, right? Think about Tropicana. If oranges ain't growing and Tropicana can't make as much orange juice, there's not as much available, which means now they got to start raising the prices because there's not as much. I did that really quickly to say that you don't necessarily need to know all of those things in order to be invested in the stock market. And it's just how people feel. That's another weird part about the stock market. It's not a specific, because there are companies that aren't doing great, but for whatever reason, their stock may be higher. Because the stock market is about people's perception of what's going to happen with the company. We determine the value of the stock market price. Because if somebody's willing to buy it, that's the price.
Last question, we'll put a bow on it. Rendell will be around later, so you all can feel free to
I got
ask.
a day party to go to after this. It's for her, man. Don't be mad at me.
We are multifaceted humans here at CityPoint, okay? That is what life looks like. So we'll have one more question. Rendell, I'll text Obi, tell him you're going to be late. Yeah, we'll have a couple questions afterwards. We'll go
I need
for
to
our
ride with
last
you because I'm
question.
drinking. Sorry, Pastor D.
All right. Well, first off, thank you for your time. It's greatly appreciated. The question that I do have, it's more along the line of
He about to hit me with something I can't answer. I feel it. I feel it. I heard it in his voice. Sound like you know something about
this. It's more along
this.
the line of an opinion. Okay. So for someone like me who's looking to segue over into stock options trading, what would you necessarily suggest as far as an aggressive pathway to actually reach that? Would you suggest investing more into ETFs as well as index funds? Shout out to XLK and XLI. Or would you suggest another method?
Gotcha. So the question is around a topic we're not going to address today intensely is stock options. So we talked today about just investing in a company, right? There's a whole other trading strategy out there called options, where you're placing a bet on whether or not the company is going to go up or down, regardless of where the price is right now. So that's a different level of skill set. I don't do it. That you can get a course on, look it up online. It's an interesting, fun way, oftentimes a way to get invested for lower amounts of money. And it tends to happen faster because, again, there are going to be changes that are going to affect that potential price. But to your question around strategies to approach that, without knowing more about your specific situation, brother, one of the cautions I give to anybody, I do a little financial coaching on the side, not the same as financial advice. I'm like your therapist in a little bit. You just talk about money. We can cry about it together. I'll hold your hand. You want to call, like NuMark said, you want to call up the creditor? I'll call them with you because I can be I can't curse in here, man. I want to, because I've had to curse at some creditors, y'all, because they try to take advantage of us. I've gotten on the phone with, she didn't know what to say to her creditor. I said, no, y'all not about to do that to her. Here's what you're going to do. Matter of fact, I don't want to talk to you no more. Get your supervisor. Just like that. Kept doing that. Funny blue bank story, and then I'm out of here. Hopefully that helps a little bit. We'll talk after. Funny blue bank story, and I'm truly gone. Now I'm -7, like Ross. Thank you, Jenny. With the blue bank, I was trying to get something addressed with my interest rate on my credit card. I wanted it lower. For no other reason than I wanted it lower. I had no real excuse. Nothing was happening in my life. I just wanted it lower. I was, excuse me, lady on the phone, whatever your name is. Can I get it lower? Can I get 5 points off my interest rate? Yeah, sorry, we can't. Okay, cool. Let me talk to your supervisor. Sir, can I get something off my credit card? Nope. Oh, no, don't want to talk to you either. Supervisor. Another ma'am. Ma'am, can I please get 5 points off my interest rate on my credit card? Been a customer for a long time. I used the card. Boom, boom. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that. Oh, really? Okay, let me get the supervisor. True story. This is as high as it goes. I said, really? Does your name by any chance happen to be Jamie Dimon? She said, well, of course not. I said, well, then I haven't gone as high as I can go. Do not accept a no from somebody not authorized to tell you yes. And on that note, I'm at -8 minutes. I love y'all. Hit me up on Instagram at Rendell, Rendel Solomon, Solomon, or LinkedIn. Happy to chat more.
First of all, Pastor D, it looked like Rendell coming for your job, okay? Because the way he left out on a whole word, it was amazing, y'all. No problem. Give it up one more time for Rendell. Thank you so much. Next up, the NuMark team, if you're hearing the sound of my voice, you all make your way to the stage. We're going to be talking about home buying. Do we have anyone here who is thinking about purchasing their first home? I love it. Love this for y'all. Invite me to the housewarming. I love it. Let me have anybody here that is thinking about purchasing their forever home. Maybe you're already in a home that fit your life when you bought it, but now you all are ready, life changes. You're thinking about getting to your bigger home. I love that. This is all that we're talking about. I will tell you, as NuMark comes up to the stage, I have learned the way y'all not going to be able to mess with me with these acronyms out in the streets. Okay, SMP, VC, Elemento, PNFT. Okay, where the conversations used to be, I would exit, I'm gonna head to the bar. I'm gonna stand and listen because this has given me a foundation of just accessible vocabulary where I can understand. And you know what? Maybe I don't have thousands, but I got 10. And from Rendell, I clapped because it meant a lot to me. But maybe I don't need a quarter of a pie. Maybe I'm like your little girl and me and Samantha can just deal with a little bite on the side. So these are what these conversations are all about. You all put your hands together and welcome NuMark as we're talking about taking you into your first or next home.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Susan Pfeiffer, and I'm a senior mortgage consultant with NuMark. This is my coworker, Felipe Mequiza. Did I pronounce that right? Close. He's also a senior mortgage consultant with NuMark Credit Union. Combined, we have over 40 years of mortgage experience, so we'll be able to answer all your questions and help you along that journey. If you would, look in your folder. You're going to find this packet, Home Buying Workshop, and we're just going to follow along right in here. Before we get started, though, I'd like to point out you're going to find a spot right on the front page for notes. And if you wouldn't mind, please making notes for any questions you have. We will ask, we're gonna hold all the questions at the end so we can get through everything, and then we'll have plenty of time to go over all your questions, and we have some fun giveaways to give for those questions. So the next page you're gonna find here, these are some of the questions that we're gonna be answering today. I'm not gonna go through these just yet, but we will definitely cover some of these different topics. If you have any specific questions related to these, please let us know and we'll be happy to go over that with you later. So the next page here, the home buying process. So basically to look at a snapshot of what the overall home acquisition process looks like, the first thing that you wanna do is get pre-approved. And that's really important before you go out and you start looking and trying to make an offer. You wanna find out what you can afford, find out what your monthly payment's gonna be, and know what to expect in regards to funds that are gonna be due at closing. So first you're gonna get pre-approved, and that's when you wanna select a lender, which of course we hope you come see us at NuMark. We are not for profit, so it's a little different than when you're going to a bank or a lending institution. We're just trying to provide the service of getting a mortgage to our members. You're also going to be selecting a realtor, which is very important in the market. You, of course, can drive around and find signs and contact the realtor that you'll see listed on the sign, but they've already entered a contract with the seller, promised the seller they're going to help them get top dollar for the home. So you want to make sure you interview different agents and select a realtor that's going to help work for you and help you negotiate. The next thing that happens in the process is you're going to get a home inspection. Home inspections aren't actually required, but they're definitely highly recommended. And that home inspection is going to help you understand all the components of the home, what to expect in regards to maintenance, repairs, things like that. Then we're going to be ordering an appraisal, which will take care of that. We're going to have an appraiser go out and make sure that the property is worth what you're going to be paying for the property. And then we're going to select an attorney, and the attorney is going to help you review the contract. The title company will get selected. Typically, the contracts that you sign here, the contracts state that the seller side gets to pick who will work the title work for you. And they're also going to facilitate that closing come the day of closing. And then once you're clear to close, you'll have the closing process. So now to do a deeper dive into what each of those things look like. So the first thing is going to be preparing for that application and that appointment. And you'll find a list of the documentation. This is not inclusive or exclusive. This is just basically a good list to get you started with what we're going to be looking for. And I would tell you that more documentation can be asked for throughout the process. Until we hear those magic words clear to close, the underwriter definitely can continue to ask for more documentation. And every time we provide a document, that can lead to more documentation being requested. So you're going to be basically turning in your tax returns, your pay stubs, your assets for the last 2 years, for the most part, is what we're going to be looking for. If you've had any bankruptcies, we're going to need to see the bankruptcy discharge papers. If you've recently been divorced, a divorce decree. And then we might ask you for some explanations just to help paint a picture for the underwriter on certain things that have happened in your financial history. So once you get all that documentation gathered, then you're actually ready for your loan application. And that's when you're gonna sit down. You can make an appointment with one of us. We have 12 different locations that we can meet you at. You could apply online. We could do the application over the phone. So we have lots of different options there. And once we start doing the interview, that's when we're gonna lead into basically trying to get a good picture of what your financial picture looks like. And the three things, we call it the 3 C's of lending. The first being credit, which you guys heard earlier today from our coworkers, how important that credit piece is. So we're gonna pull your credit. We typically do a hard pull for the pre-approval. It works in conjunction with your credit report. So we'll do a hard pull and we give you a pre-approval letter that's good for 120 days. And if at that time when we meet and we pull your credit, if it's not where we need it to be, then we're gonna work with you and get you on a game plan to get you there. once we have your credit and we look at all your income and your asset documentation, all of that gets analyzed through what's called an automated underwriting system. So it's basically like an AI underwriter, and everything, of course, is then also checked off by an actual underwriter who, one of our underwriters is floating around and right there waving her hand. So she's gonna also check everything over once we turn everything in and make sure that all your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, make sure we didn't miss anything. The next section after we analyze your credit is we're looking at your capacity, which that's basically your ability to repay the loan. And that's gonna look different for everyone based on what your income situation looks like, whether you're going on it with someone else or you're going on it by yourself. But we look at what your debt to income ratios are, and those are very different based on different programs that you might qualify for. And we're gonna help you figure all that out, so you don't have to worry too much about where you need to be for that. We'll help you with that. The last C that we look for is the collateral, and that's why we're gonna order the appraisal to make sure that that property is worth what you're actually gonna be paying for the property. In the event that it wouldn't appraise out, then we might need to go back to the seller and renegotiate. And if they're not willing to renegotiate, sometimes people are bringing additional funds to closing, or we might just have to move on to a different property. But that appraisal is going to determine the value of the property, that overall condition of the property, and then they're going to basically look at what you're putting down, making sure that your down payment is adequate for the loan program we've selected for you. The next bullet there, you're going to find a couple of the different loan programs that we have to offer. We have conventional loan programs available. First-time homebuyers can put as little as 3% down. Veterans can do 100% financing, where you're technically not needing to put a down payment down. And then FHA financing will allow as little as 3.5% down. And we also have, if you look in your folder, you're gonna find a flyer for Down Payment Plus. We have a Down Payment Plus grant program. Currently, it's $10,000, and it's not actually just for first-time homebuyers. It is for, if you've owned a home before, you can utilize that as well, and it's based on your income. So then once we review all your documentation and we make sure that we get a pre-approval for you, we'll give you that pre-approval, and as I mentioned, that'll be good for 120 days. The next thing you're gonna do then is start shopping with your realtor, and as I mentioned before, that's why it's really important you select your own realtor that's gonna work for you and help you negotiate throughout the process. They also will help in the event, if the appraisal came back low, they may help with that if we need to go back to the seller, or if we'll talk about this in a minute, but when you get a home inspection, that can sometimes result in needing to do more negotiating for the price or asking for credits for repairs possibly. So the realtor is really important to help you shop for the home, making your offer. They're also gonna help you fill out the contract and present that to the seller's side. Once your contract is accepted, and it just depends, some people, their first contract that they're offering on is accepted, and some people are making multiple different offers before they're getting their contract selected. But once you are under contract and the seller has agreed to sell you the property, then you're gonna give something called earnest money. And earnest money is a portion of the down payment that you're giving up front that's just showing you're committed to the transaction, and it's kind of like your good faith in the deal. So once you've given your earnest money, then at that time, if you choose to have a home inspection, which again, we definitely recommend, you'll go ahead and get an inspection done. There's multiple different kinds of inspections. You can have a regular home inspection, radon inspection. There can be possibly a mold inspection, so several different kinds of inspections depending on the property type. And once you have that satisfactory home inspection, then that's when we know we're ready to go ahead and order the appraisal. We typically will wait until you do that though, because sometimes people will go through a couple of home inspections until they get to the right property where we're ready to take that next step and order the appraisal. And then that appraisal, when that is getting conducted, a common, I think, myth is people think that appraisal is done for them, and it's actually done for the lender. It's our kind of security that we know that we're gonna lend on this property, and it is indeed worth what you're gonna be paying for it. So we will go ahead and get that appraisal ordered. We get that back. And once we get the appraisal back, in the background, what's also happening is your loan has been turned into processing and underwriting. The processor is working on verifying employment. If there's any other documentation that we're missing we need to collect at that time, we're gonna request that and turn that in. And then the underwriter is gonna do analyze basically all that information at the end to be issuing what is referred to as the clear to close. That means everything's been checked and you are now ready for your closing day. And at that time, then typically the closings take place at the title company, and our closer will then work with balancing with the title company, balancing the figures, and the title company acts as a middleman between the buyer and the seller, and the lender is going to be sending all their figures in, and they're basically going to balance all those figures to help you come up with what your bottom line is for closing. And then those funds typically either need to be wired, which if you do bank with NuMark, we make it real easy and we'll wire it right over there with our loan funds for you. Otherwise, you're typically bringing in cashier's check payable to the title company. And then the day of closing, a lot of closings happen as quickly as an hour or under an hour, and sometimes they can take a lot longer, and there's many different reasons that can occur, but you're gonna basically go to that closing and you're gonna sign a whole stack of documents. When you get through signing all those documents, you're gonna get the deed for the property that gets recorded, as well as some other documents. You're gonna get a survey typically. You'll find out when your first payment's gonna be. You are gonna skip 1 month after you close before your first mortgage payment's gonna be due. You have an option to set up an auto pay if you would like to do that. So you'll go over all that at the closing, and then of course you get to leave with your keys. And then just the bottom there talks about the first payments, that you have the different options where you can set up ACH if you'd like to, or you can actually come into any NuMark location and make a payment at our branch too. So that's what the overall process looks like, and I wanted to save a lot of time because we usually get quite a few questions, and so now I'd like to open it up, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to go over questions.
Before I get started with questions, everyone who came in, the NuMark team was up front and they had you fill out these small pieces of paper. If you have not, anyone, is the NuMark team, they're right there in the back. You wanna stand up, they're ready to take these because they're doing giveaways at the end of their question and answer. We have one over here. I feel like an old school usher when they be like, I got one envelope right here. Anyone else, make sure everyone is entered because you wanna make sure that you get their giveaways. Have another right on this side. Thank you so much, brother. So if you just raise your hand, then we'll make sure you get those. Yep, and the NuMark team is coming around. And we can do those while we're doing our question and answer, so 2 at one time. Any questions? I can start with the first one right here.
Before the subprime meltdown in 2008, there were a lot of fun ways to get money, and I'm wondering if anything fun like no-doc loans or for people that are buying secondary properties are coming our way. Also, just curious, why do you need to do a hard pull if, most of us have like 15 different sources to aggregate, pretty close to accurate FICO? I think a lot of us don't want to get a hard pull, but we do want to know if your institution has anything that would work when we're looking at properties.
So we can issue a pre-qualification letter without doing a hard pull, but the software in our system built up to actually issue a pre-approval letter, and it states right on there we did a hard pull. And that's typically one of the first questions we'll get from if a realtor, if you make an offer on a property, and let's just say the listing agent calls us to find out that we did our due diligence and did our homework on you and vetted everything to make sure you're gonna be able to close on the property, that's typically one question they ask. So we certainly can do a soft pull and do a pre-qualification, but for a full pre-approval letter, we're gonna do a hard pull.
And the reason we don't do that most of the time is because, for example, the apps that you guys look at, Credit Karma, your Chase app, or whatever app you're looking at, it only pulls one bureau, and they're set up as different credit modules. One is set up for credit cards, business loans, insurance, and so forth, and there's one for mortgages. So a lot of the stuff that we might pull, that you guys see, is not gonna show up when we do a soft pull. And that's why it might lead you to get denied once we do the actual hard pull, because it didn't show up the first time. And as far as the no-doc loans, there is some programs out there for bank statement loans, but there's a higher down payment on there, but there is a few of them coming out recently for that. But strictly no-doc, there is not going to be any anytime soon. They're too high risk for anybody at the moment.
Thanks, Felipe. We have another question right here in the back.
Hi, I'm wondering, on your down payment assistance program, is it treated as a second mortgage? And is there if they pay it off early, is there a issue with that?
No, there's no second mortgage tied to that one. It's only a retention agreement, and it states that you have to live in a property, keep the property for 5 years. But there is certain ways that it's not payable back, depending on how much you sell the property for, or depending on how much the person buying it qualifies for it too. But and all the time that we've been doing this for 5 years, we haven't had one person pay back yet.
All right, I'll come to the front of the room in a second. I have one more back here.
Hi, I'm a veteran, so I'm asking, do you help like find extra grants with veterans? And also, what does the closing costs look like? I know that like the VA takes care of the home loan, but like closing costs for us, what does that look like?
Thank you for your service. Yes, we certainly will try to work with you and help you find any grants. If there's grants available that we can pair with the 100% financing. In regards to the closing cost in our Chicago metropolitan area, typically you're looking at about $6,000 to $7,000 if you're using an attorney altogether. The title company charges on the closing are right around $4,000. We'll give you a free appraisal working with NuMark, so that's just one added benefit that we'll give you. And then our fees are pretty low. We're looking at about $13.95 is what NuMark charges. Of course, being that you're a veteran, you're gonna have actually less fees than what you would traditionally have, but I usually tell people about $6,000 to $7,000 total for closing costs, although it can be more. You know, in the city of Chicago, there's transfer taxes that you're gonna pay in addition to that $6,000 to $7,000.
All right, our next question here.
Good afternoon. Thanks, NuMark. My question is, you know, I've been hearing, so I'm a millennial, and you hear a lot of news and a lot of talk about so many Americans not feeling comfortable about, you know, imagining even purchasing a home. So I guess my question is, why, like, you know, do you think that's news spin, or have you seen that, and why? Because when I listen to this, or when I listen to, I mean, honestly, like, I grew up, you know, wanting to buy a home. It was something my dad actually was a realtor for, but, you know, surprisingly, some of that has kind of like influenced my, not my overall goal, but how quickly, you know, I wanted to buy a home, because I'm looking at people that, like, I'm assuming they might even have a higher net worth than I do, and they're talking about not buying. So can you speak to that? Have you seen that? Have you seen a decrease in people wanting to buy a home? And if that's true, why do you think that is?
Well, I think one of the big factors is, you know, prices went up quite a bit with inflation, and we don't have a lot of inventory. That inventory has created a little bit of a problem. There's a lot of pent-up demand right now. And the interest rates, of course, are the other factor. Interest rates are quite a bit higher right now than where they were during COVID, for instance. So somebody that has a 4% interest rate looking to buy the same property today at a 7% interest rate, that payment's gonna look quite a bit different. You know, the market definitely is always forever gonna be changing with the interest rates. Those really low interest rates are not the norm, though. We kind of got spoiled by that time, but that's not traditionally. I got into the business in 2001, and 7.5% was a fantastic interest rate at that time. So I think a lot of it is just relative to when you actually are looking to buy. But if you're renting, you know, you're still technically paying a mortgage. You're just paying your landlord's mortgage.
Whoop. Sorry, that was a sound effect. I was like, oop, oh, sorry, that caught me. Okay, continue. Sorry, Susie, sorry.
No, that's okay.
That was something to think about. All right, next question here, you're here. That's a little gift from NuMark to you.
Okay, thank you. Do you offer rehab loans by any chance?
We don't directly. We're trying to find an outlet for that currently, but at the moment I'd have to say we don't. I definitely know a lot of people that do offer those programs. That's just not something we do at this time.
Okay, I'm making my way across the room.
How long is the process from beginning to end, would you say someone should expect in the home purchasing process?
That's a great question. So you can get pre-approved as quickly as a day, and then it depends. A lot of people will find a contract, get under contract really quickly, and you're usually closing within 3 weeks, 30 days, I would say, time frame.
Hello. What are your rates currently? I know they vary based off of DTI and credit score and all that stuff, but if you are the best candidate, what are your credit union rates?
Right now, the interest rates, depending on your loan amount, what program you're doing, for a conventional loan, you're looking at about 6.75 to 7 1/8. FHA is lower. FHA is going to be closer to 6.3. VA is going to be lower too. So it kind of depends on which program you do, but I would say in the 6 to low 7.
All right, Susie and Felipe, we have one more question before we wrap up.
Yes, good afternoon. Does the bank offer construction loans?
That's another great question. We do not have an outlet for that at this time either.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for Susie and Felipe for breaking down the home buying process for us. I think, was that our last speakers? Oh, I thought we were staying here all day. It was so good. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. All right, give it up for yourselves. Shout out to you for, first of all, like Rendell said to my sister over here, what's step one? You signed up, you showed up, and you were open, and so many of you were so vulnerable with what you needed to get out of this today. And so for that, thank you so much for here. I'm gonna bring our keynotes back up, just give us some housekeeping on, and one thing I wanna make sure that we talk about for all the parents in the house and how we can open up that account for our children. If you want your 2 cents heard, if you're like, I walked away with this learning something, this is something, then you'll see Nikki, she's floating around here with the camera. Meet her right in the corner. We are taking on-site interviews, and they're also to your, oh, here she is. And then you will also receive a text message. That way you can make sure that your voice is heard through a survey that will help us do more programming like this right on the south side of Chicago. So give it up for that.
All right, so we got some goodies to give away. Am I drawing? Come on up. Am I drawing? And then what are the gifts we have available? 3 $50 gift cards. All right. All right. Yeah, let me mix them around so the late people don't get an advantage. Here we go. Here we go. Uh-oh. That's going to be the one. Ayanna Berry. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at?
Oh, and you got to be in the building to win.
You got to be.
Okay, so if Ayanna is in her car, text her, girl, you just missed out on $50.
What was the saying, Rendell? Buying whole, what was it?
Set it and forget it.
You got to
I used
set in
to
the
watch
seat
it.
and forget it.
Yep. All right, so let's try for our next one.
All right. Kristen Anderson.
Kristen's right here.
All right. Then we got Reagan Gray.
Reagan!
Right. Reagan, let me borrow $10. You came up today. You got
Reagan, you know what? You sat in the front row, too.
You opened a savings account today, too? You still got your 50. And then, where Ronald at? Ronald Eldridge. Ronald let me borrow $10. All right, and then we have some other, are we drawing for those as well? Okay, all right, and then in the bags are Mac Ross's ABCs of Young Millionaires book. Kimya, where's Kimya? Is she down with the kids? All right, okay, we're gonna go with that one. Kimya is volunteering to help the kids. And then Jessica Anderson. Jessica. Thanks. Whit. Where's Whit?
They know they got enough kids. So
Leslie. Where's Leslie?
Wesley Rovalis. All right, we'll switch it out.
Chris Rowe. There we go.
No pressure for the dating couple.
We got one more. So you got Kimya's, still got Kimya's, okay. And then one more. Tarvea Durant. There we go. Awesome. We'll figure it out. Awesome day, everybody. Give a good round of applause to our NuMark sponsors for being with us, for investing in this work that we're doing in the community, this knowledge regarding generational wealth. Jenny, thank you for being an amazing host.
Give it up for our amazing host.
As we wrap, do not forget, if you've got kids, you brought them here, don't leave the money on the table. Pick them up.
Pick them up. Do that.
Pick them up so we don't violate child labor laws, because there's a lot of mopping and sweeping and garbage taken out that they're going to be doing if they stick around. Make sure you pick them up, but make sure you take advantage of these free savings accounts. $50. NuMark's putting 25 in. CityPoint's putting 25 in. Don't leave the money on the table. Make sure you take advantage of it. There is information in your packet that in the folder that was inside of the green bag. You might as well do it while you're here to get that set up. If you are looking to set up an account with NuMark, you can also, there's a QR that's available for that as well in the folder. Folks will be around if you've got questions. Carla and I will be here. I know Rendell got a glow party to go to, but you might be able to catch him on the way out the door. I know Kendra had to head out, but we'll be here, and then the NuMark team, you'll be able to catch them as well if you have some direct one-on-one questions that you need to ask before you go. But again, thank you guys so much for being here today. Any closing pieces?
Yeah, so one, there was actually another QR. We like a good QR code up here where it's asked for your feedback on this conference. So we would love, this is the first one we've done. We want to make sure that, thank you, that the information was of value, the time felt well spent. So please give us your feedback there so that we can continue to build on this, because it is such a passion of this ministry, a passion of ours directly, and we want to make sure that we are adding value at every point.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lori Vesey, and I'm the Vice President of Lending at NuMark Credit Union. And on behalf of all of our volunteers, NuMark, myself, we'd like to thank you for taking the time out to come out here today. We hope that the information that you received was valuable, and we would love to help you with any of your financial needs.
Thank you so much. You said that. This is just a tad bit. If this is your first time in this building, so you don't attend CityPoint Church, which now you're part of our family, of our community family, can you raise your hand if this is your first time in the building?
Wonderful.
I will say that now you know that we are a church that walks the walk. So I hope that this shows as a preview and an introduction, and now you all are part of our family, and to come back and visit us again here at CityPoint. A lot of us come up and we come, this is again telling all of our business, with church trauma, leaning, money and church was something. They would say, open your wallets and close your eyes, and you were giving, just give blindly to the Lord. And that is not, we have a pastor with truly a vision of not only how we want to grow our resources as a church, but how he wants the best for you and your family. So many of the speakers today were really part of the talent pool here at CityPoint. So if you weren't able to ask questions today, I know Kendra will be here tomorrow because she'll be volunteering here at the church. Come back and visit us again. Let this be your first time, but certainly not your last time, so you can get to know us as well.
All right, and with that,
this is my pastor. He's standing to the side, a man with a vision and out the way. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much to NuMark, and shout out to all the NuMark volunteers that came with us this Saturday. Thank you so much.